myself on you, yeah. Myself on you, yeah.
Everything that brought me alive. Though we're all like monsters, playing with the monsters. They brought me alive, but got no alibi. It's a lover's fight without an alibi. It's up my innocence without an alibi. Everything that brought me alive. Oh, we're all like monsters, playing with the monsters. They brought me alive, but got no alibi. It's a lover's fight without an alibi. It's up my innocence without an alibi.
Hello! Hello. It is Wednesday, which also means it's Valentine's Day, and also it's fanfiction reading day. It's been a couple of months since the last one, so I am excited. I'm super excited. I've been working on the story for a bit, and I have mentioned it pulls from real life a little bit, so I am excited. Hello, Bradley. Hello, Boo. Hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Oh, all right. So this story, just a little, the description is, pretty cut and dry. A simple love story. This is a story called Sunflower Kisses. And it's, a simple love story, as the description suggests. It's one I've kind of pulled maybe a touch from like real life experiences in a way. It's one that I have enjoyed, so yeah. And as for catching up on chat and all that fun stuff, I'll probably, catch up between scenes and between chapters. So how is the background music, by the way? Because I forgot to test it. Let me turn that down a smidge. Because I 100% forgot to test things. So because I checked on Riley, and she was still asleep by like 11:15. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and get set up. And I forgot to do a lot of things. So, so hopefully everything goes okay. So, let us get into it. Chapter 1, Spring. Spring, the season where the plants bloom from the adversity of the harsh, cold winter. Flowers were beginning to paint the walkways as a group of friends walked outside. Loud laughter echoed down the streets. 3 men walked into a cafe to meet up with another friend of theirs. They were greeted by a short woman with long dyed pastel pink hair. Jisung, Mino, Hyunjini, welcome. Vinny's at the table in the back if you want to head that way. The woman smiled and pointed to the back corner of the cafe. Gotcha, Bradley. Thank you, Nadi. Jisung smiled as he led the group deeper into the cafe. Mino walked by with a nod, and Hyunjin smiled softly. Jisung dropped his bag on the table, resulting in a loud thud. The man who was sitting at the table jumped. Yeah, a hello not good enough for you? He complained as the others sat down. Come on, Changbin, you know we don't do hellos anymore, Jisung playfully protested. Jisung, you know perfectly good and well that is absolutely stupid, Changbin shot back. It's Jisung. You should expect anything absolutely stupid, Mino deadpanned as he sat down next to Jisung. That is so rich coming from you, Hyunjin replied, sitting down next to Changbin. Changbin sighed as he shook his head. All 3 of you were idiots, he mumbled to himself. He was snapped out of his thoughts when Nadi walked over to the table. My savior, he smiled at her. Nadi smiled back at Changbin. I can't save you for long. I'm just here to give everyone their drinks, she laughed as she handed each one their cups. Each cup had a small doodle on them. Jisung laughed at the chipmunk. Mino cracked a smile at the cat. Hyunjin smiled softly at the ferret with a small heart. Changmin saw his had a small message of I love you with a big heart on it and smiled widely. It's nice to know everyone's orders by heart, Jisung commented with a small chuckle. You guys come in practically all the time, so it's easy to pick up on stuff like that, Nadi smiled. Anything else I can get for you guys? I don't think so, Hyunjin replied with a soft smile. Nadi smiled back before leaving the guys at the table. Jisung slammed his hands at the table for a moment. Jisung slammed his hands at the table the moment she was out of sight. So, he called out with a smirk, where do we begin with this project? We've got the photo shoot lined up, right? Changbin asked the others. Everything should be lined up. Chan texted us we needed to be at the studio at 10:30 Saturday morning, Mino answered. He got everything lined up just like that? Hyunjin laughed to himself. This is Chan we're talking about, Jisung laughed with Hyunjin. That man can do damn near everything. Whatever helps us get that bonus, Changbin said as he sipped on his perfectly made coffee. Changbin waited around in the cool evening outside of the cafe. He waited for half an hour when Nadi walked out with a smile. Changbin immediately wrapped his jacket around her. Meeting go okay? He asked. Whatever it takes for the bonus, exactly. I went on a touch long, but just the normal speech about inventory management, Nadi answered as she wrapped the jacket around herself tighter. She moved in to give Changbin a quick kiss on the lips. Let's not fret about the boring stuff. Let's go hang out at your place tonight. Changbin smiled as he grabbed her hand and walked in the direction of his apartment. The two walked in a comfortable silence for the duration of the walk. They arrived at Changbin's apartment and Nadi quickly made herself at home. Nadi took her shoes off and made her way to the couch. Changbin chuckled at the sight as he slipped off his shoes and made his way towards the kitchen. He gathered an assortment of snack foods and joined Nadi on the couch. How's your project going? Nadi asked, cuddling up to Changbin. Project is going well so far. We've been needing to get the photo shoot part of it done for a while, but Chanhyung managed to get that taken care of. So we'll need to meet up at the place this Saturday, Changbin answered. That sounds like fun, Nadi smiled. I'm not doing anything Saturday, so would it be okay if I tagged along? I've never got to see you work like this. Changbin smiled as he held her closer. Of course. It'll be mostly boring stuff, so having someone keeping me company would help get through the morning, he replied. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, isn't Hyunjin's birthday coming up? Monday, right? Nadi asked. Yeah, why? Changbin asked, turning the TV on. I was thinking we can throw him a party, Nadi suggested as she snacked on some chips. We could go somewhere Saturday night while everyone is together for the day, Changbin said as he settled on a movie to watch. Nadi's expression shifted slightly. Actually, I was thinking we could do it on Monday night. It would be more special if it was on his actual birthday, she replied with an almost pleading tone. Changbin appeared confused. I mean, that's fine with me, but it would make more sense to do something the weekend before while everyone is around. Also, for my birthday a few months ago, we celebrated the weekend after since it was the middle of the week, he countered, tone never faltering. I just think we should do something special for him, Nadi argued. And we celebrated on your birthday. It was nice. It was a nice night in, just the two of us. Changbin took a deep breath. He did not want to argue any further. Okay, we can figure out something for his birthday, he calmly said. Nadi smiled widely. Thank you! I can arrange something at the cafe, or we can get one of my friends to rent out the bowling alley, or we could... Changbin tuned out her vocalized thoughts in favor of his own inner thoughts. Did she just brush off his birthday experience? She was right. They had a nice quiet night in. But she seemed to miss the point. And why was she so adamant about Hyunjin all of a sudden? Nah, he was probably overthinking things. What do you think, Binny? Nadi asked with a sweet smile. Changbin smiled back. Anything you want, babe. Thank you! Nadi cheered and hung Changbin tight. She pulled back and looked him in the eyes and smiled. I love you. Changbin smiled back, not quite as full. I love you too. Nadi leaned in and kissed him. Changbin kissed back while pushing all those thoughts to the side. Hello, Sifu. Hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you for the lurk. Teaching class, but I have you open on the computer. Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, what could be going on? Changbin walked in the studio building with a hefty yawn. Nadi giggled at the action. Still tired? She asked. I wasn't the one who kept the other awake all night, Changbin smirked at Nari, earning more giggles out of her. Get a room, you two, Jisung called out from the hallway. Changbin rolled his eyes as he and Nari walked down the hall to follow Jisung. So, what's the plan today? He asked Jisung, ignoring his previous comment. Hyunjin is getting his makeup done right now. Then me, then you, and whoever just gets here next. The photographer is across the hall getting things ready for the shoot, Jisung explained, leading Changbin and Nari to the room on the left. Changbin walked in and was greeted by bright vanity lights and a huge assortment of makeup products. He found Hyunjin sitting in the chair, but his attention shifted slightly to the woman applying the makeup. She was wearing a royal blue sweater with the sleeves rolled up and short jean shorts. Her hair was bright orange, wavy, and sat neatly just below her shoulders. All right, that should do it, she said as she stood up and looked at her work. She looked over her shoulders towards the door and smiled. Which one of you is next? She asked. That would be me, Jisung cheered. He practically hopped into the seat, earning a laugh from the woman. She looked up at Changbin and smiled. Feel free to hang around, or if you want to stick around and chat, that's fine too, she said, her voice sounding very comforting. Changbin nodded and turned to Nari, who was gone. He looked up and found her next to Hyunjin, chatting about something. Looking slightly defeated, he pulled up a chair next to Jisung and sat down. I guess I'll chill here, he said, leaning back in the chair. The woman smiled as she started working on Jisung's makeup. She engaged in idle chit-chat while working and made Jisung and even Changbin at ease. Changbin kept his attention divided between Jisung and Nari. Jisung was happily chatting with the makeup artist, and Nari was happily chatting with Hyunjin. So, Bin, when are you gonna do the thing? Jisung asked Changbin. Changbin snapped out of his thoughts and looked at Jisung. I was planning on it in the next couple of months. Why are you asking now? He replied. No reason, Jisung shrugged as he looked over at Hyunjin and Nari. Alright, all done, the woman smiled. Next, please. Jisung stood up from the chair and Changbin moved to take his place. Please be gentle, Changbin joked as he sat down. Be rough? Got it. The woman laughed as she swapped brushes. Changbin let out a laugh, which caught the attention of Nari. Changbin noticed for a brief moment before talking to the woman. I don't think we've introduced ourselves yet. I'm Seo Changbin, he politely introduced himself. I'm Jeon Haewon. The woman, Haewon, smiled politely. She grabbed a clean brush and started working. I like to start with the eyes, just in case I mess up. That way, I don't have to be careful with foundation and correcting mistakes, she explained as she focused on applying eyeshadow to the eyes. That sounds practical, Changbin chuckled softly. How long have you been doing makeup? Essentially right out of high school, so 4-5 years? Haewon answered. What do you do for a living? I work as a producer. We kind of run this small group on the side, hence this project here and why you're doing our makeup, Changbin replied with a smile. Fair enough, Haewon smiled as she tilted Changbin's head up. Look up for me, she gently commanded. Changbin did as he was told, and she worked on applying eyeshadow to the lower lash line. Is getting to command people the real reason you're a makeup artist? Changbin joked, but then panicked. The panic subsided quickly when Haewon laughed loudly. My secret's exposed. How dare you? She joked back through her laughter. I'll be out of a job in 2 weeks' time. Changbin smiled widely. Haewon was easy to get along with. He felt at ease. At least until he caught sight of Nari. The look on her face was one he had not seen before. So what's going on there? Rough. Yeah. Yeah, of course, right? When someone asks to be gentle, you gotta be rough, right? So that was chapter 1. Chapter 2. Birthday party. Ooh, already a birthday party? Oh my goodness. Clear that table for the gifts, and the other table will be where the cake goes, Nari directed the people in the cafe. Changbin sat back and watched as everyone scrambled to decorate the cafe for Hyunjin's birthday party. He felt oddly bitter as Nadi was happily running around and setting things up. She smiled as she sat next to him. Things are coming along nicely. Did you ask when Jisung was bringing him? Nadi asked as she hugged Changbin's arm. Changbin's expression remained neutral as he pulled out his phone and read a message from Jisung. He said he'll bring him by in an hour, and that was 20 minutes ago, he answered Nadi. So we have 40 minutes to spruce up the place, Nadi said as she looked around. I think the place looks fine. Hyunjin will love it, Changbin said, fighting off a specific bitterness. Nadi noticed the change in Changbin. Loosen up, babe. Today will be fun. Do we need to de-stress before more people arrive? She asked with a smirk. Changbin mirrored the smirk as he stood up and walked towards the back with Nadi following. The two were gone for 15 minutes before returning. Right as they returned, Jisung and Hyunjin walked into the cafe. Hyunjin wore a bright smile as he looked at the decorations. Nadi quickly walked to Hyunjin with a smile. Happy birthday, Hyunjin! She cheered as she hugged him. Thank you, Nadi. Hyunjin smiled as he hugged her back. Happy birthday! Changbin walked up to Hyunjin and gave him a quick hug. Thanks, Hyung. Hyunjin smiled at Changbin. The group watched as Jisung ran towards the table with the presents. Look at your gifts! Jisung cheered. Hey, you had your birthday 6 months ago, Hyunjin hollered as he walked up to Jisung. Nadi laughed at the two while Changbin shook his head with a soft chuckle. Nadi grabbed Changbin's arm and motioned towards the others. Changbin followed Nadi's lead without argument, although something inside him said to hold back. The party went off without a hitch. Music played, people were chatting, and most importantly, Hyunjin was having fun. The evening carried on for a while, with the vibes staying the same. Changbin sat on his own as he watched Nadi and Hyunjin talking and giggling. Releasing a sigh, he stood up and walked over to the two. He placed a hand on Nadi's shoulder and told her, I'm going to get some fresh air. Without hearing the response, he walked out of the cafe and walked down the street. He had no idea where he wanted to go. He just wanted out of there. After a few minutes, he found an ice cream shop. The place did not look too busy, so he walked in. Not expecting anything, he found something interesting. A familiar face. He paused briefly when he saw the person sitting at a booth by themselves. This pause gave the other person enough time to look up and make eye contact. Smiling, they waved and motioned for him to come over. Changbin, fancy seeing you here. Likewise, Haewon. Changbin smiled as he sat in the seat across from Haewon. You here to get some ice cream? Haewon asked with a soft smile. Not sure what I'm here for exactly, Changbin nervously chuckled. Haewon tilted her head. How about I get you some ice cream and we can talk about it? She asked as she left without any protest from Changbin. Changbin watched helplessly as Haewon walked up to the counter and ordered 2 chocolate shakes. She returned quickly with a bright smile, handing one of the shakes to Changbin. How much was it? I'll pay you back. Changbin scrambled to grab his wallet. Don't worry about it. It's on me. Haewon smiled before taking a sip of her shake. What's on your mind? Changbin reluctantly took a sip of his shake and hummed in delight at the taste of it. After taking a few more sips, he contemplated on the answer. A lot? I don't know. I was at a party and wanted to get some fresh air, and ended up here, he said. Was it the birthday party I heard your girlfriend talking about the other day? Haewon asked. That would be correct, Changbin replied. She was so adamant on today, the actual birthday, rather than to just celebrate on Saturday night when everyone was there. Nothing wrong with that. Unless something about it bothers you, Haewon pondered, sipping on her shake some more. That's the thing. It does kind of bother me. I'm not sure what though, Changbin said, sipping on his own shake. Haewon hummed in response. She was filing through her own thoughts, looking for an answer. After a quick moment of silence, she decided not to answer, but rather distract. Well, hopefully it resolves itself soon. In the meantime, how about we just chat? I really liked talking with you on Saturday. She smiled as she leaned forward on the table. Changbin could not hold back a smile. Alright, I'll bite. I'm curious. What do you do when you're not on a job? He asked. I sit here eating ice cream all the time, Haewon answered with a straight face. Changbin laughed out loud at the answer. Haewon chuckled along before adding, but really, my normal schedule is pretty wild. Some days I'm incredibly busy, and other days I have nothing better to do but sit at home. Hopefully you get paid well for your time, Changbin said. It's hit or miss, Haewon admitted. Some days I get paid really well, and others I get overbearing parents, spouses, or friends that are like, you are terrible at makeup, or how dare you make her look prettier than me, she said in a somewhat mocking tone. Changbin let out a laugh. I can understand that one. Working with clients is tough sometimes. Producing music isn't quite the same as applying makeup, but dealing with stupid clients I can understand. People are dumb, Haewon simply stated with a curt nod. I agree, Changbin replied with a similar nod. Haewon smiled and held up her cup. A toast to dumb people. Without them, we would be broke, she announced playfully. Changbin smiled widely as he hit Haewon's cup with his own. To dumb people. The two erupted into a fit of laughter. After a while, the two exchanged numbers before Changbin eventually had to get back to the cafe. Haewon walked with him down the street. After a few minutes, they arrived at the cafe. The place was almost empty, with just a few people left inside. Haewon looked at Changbin to say her goodbyes, but what she saw caught her off guard. Changbin looked almost sad as he looked inside the windows. Oh, why could Changbin be sad? Vibes successfully checked. Maintained. Oh, absolutely. Vibes were checked. Love those payments. Yes. Yes. Gotta get money, get paid. Ring, ring. Changbin groaned as his phone rang for the third time. He rolled over and reached for the phone on the nightstand and found Nadi calling. Sighing, he answered the phone. Yeah? Where the hell were you last night? Nadi asked in a demanding tone. I told you I was getting some fresh air, Changbin answered as he sat up in his bed. You didn't come back at all. Mino said you were outside the cafe around 9:30. Why didn't you come back in? Nadi pestered further. Changbin contemplating responding to the question. Does he be honest? I just felt like going home. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal when you are gone all night, Nadi scolded. It's not like you noticed or anything, Changbin muttered under his breath. What was that? Of course I noticed. You weren't out with another woman, were you? Nadi fired off in an accusatory manner. Why does that matter? Changbin shot back. Because you were gone for an abnormal amount of time, plus Mino said there was a woman next to you when you were outside the cafe. She's not like that Chaeyoung chick, is she? Or Chaeyoung chick, is she? What is she to you? Nadi asked, voice gradually raising. She's a friend I happened to meet by coincidence. It's not like I deserted you to meet with her, Changbin bitterly said. Why do you sound angry about it? Nadi asked. Maybe you should look in a damn mirror before accusing me of shit. Changbin snapped, and before getting a reply, he ended the call. He let out a loud groan as he buried his face in his hands. This was not quite the start to the day he wanted. He looked at his phone at the slew of text messages coming in. One in particular stood out. This conversation isn't over. You are going to explain everything when I come over. Changbin sighed as he tossed his phone on his bed. One more message popped up, but it was not from Nadi. Good morning. Changbin managed a small smile as he saw the text from Haewon. He grabbed his phone and replied, Morning. Taking his phone with him to the bathroom, he got a shower ready for himself to get the day started a little better. He glanced at his phone before he stripped down. I'll be a bit busy today, but I can at least tell you to have a good day. Changbin smiled wider. The morning was already being salvaged. He sent a quick reply before hopping in the shower. He blasted through his morning routine, and in a half hour's time, he was ready to leave for work. Running out the door, he left to head to work before he caught Naughty. He knew she loved to show up out of nowhere, and this morning he preferred to avoid her. The drive to the studio was a quick one. He walked briskly to the building and straight into the room with Chan and Jisung. Both of them seemed taken aback by Changbin's enthusiasm. "You seem chipper this morning," Chan commented. "I didn't want to be, but here I am," Changbin replied as he pulled out his phone. He noticed several more texts from Naughty, and he chose to ignore them. After turning his phone on silent, he set his phone down and started working on his computer. "Another fight with your girlfriend?" Chan asked as he leaned back in his chair and looked right at Changbin. "Yup," Changbin simply replied. "Want to talk about it?" Chan offered as he turned his chair to fully face Changbin. "Not much to talk about. Same shit, different day," Changbin sighed. "Why does she get up in arms about you getting out of her sight? She leaves you alone all the time," Chan expressed his thoughts. "If she would quit being up my ass, then we would have no issues. But she scolds me like a child every time I do anything she doesn't like," Changbin replied. "I leave her alone for the most part. Why can't she do the same?" "Probably insecurities. As much as you would love to avoid it, a conversation about this is necessary," Chan said after a moment of collecting his thoughts. Changbin released a sigh. "I'll talk to her tonight. She said she was coming over, so might as well get that conversation over with," he said in a somewhat complaining tone. Chan looked at Changbin with a solemn expression. He glanced over at Jisung, who mirrored his expression. "Hyung, I have a question," Jisung asked Changbin. "What is it?" Changbin replied, half focused on his computer monitor. "Whose idea was it to throw Hyunjin that party last night?" Jisung asked cautiously. Changbin glanced at Jisung with sad eyes before looking away. "Naughty's," he curtly answered. Jisung hummed at the response. Himself and Shen pondered on the individual thoughts. They both remembered Changbin's birthday months ago, when there was nothing special happening. So why did his girlfriend throw someone else a big birthday party? That is a good question. That is a very good question. So from what we know, Changbin's birthday party didn't really have much to it, a quiet night in. But then Naughty throws Hyunjin a big old birthday party. There's lots of questions there. Crap, what chapter was this? 3! Chapter 3, Life's Like a Doodle. Haewon smiled as she stepped back and admired her work. The model looked in the mirror and smiled. Another job well done. She gathered her brushes and palettes from the countertops and cleaned the area. She glanced at her phone as she was picking up brushes and noticed a text message from half an hour ago. "Are you busy this evening? Kinda need a distraction." Haewon frowned at the words. She conjured up a reply to the statement before someone walked up to her. She looked at the person and smiled. "Hey, Yuhyun." Haewon smiled slightly. "You ready for dinner?" Yuhyun smiled as she draped an arm around Haewon. "I need a pick-me-up," Haewon sighed. "I also need to leave a bit early after dinner. I'm gonna meet up with a friend later this evening." Yuhyun pulled back with a confused and sly expression. "A friend or a friend?" she smirked. "Just a friend," Haewon sternly replied. "Besides, he has a girlfriend. No point in looking deeper into it." "That's no fun," Yuhyun pouted. She helped Haewon gather her supplies and carry them out the building. "Well, sometimes things are no fun. Doesn't matter if he's cute or not. If he's taken, I can't do anything about it." Haewon spoke her thoughts as she and Yuhyun placed her makeup kit in the backseat of her car. "So you admit he's cute?" Yuhyun smirked. "It's perfectly normal to admit you have a crush on someone." "It's not a crush, Yuhyun," Haewon grumbled as they both climbed in the car. Sure it's not, Yuhyun shrugged. Haewon started the car and drove to the diner to meet the rest of their friends. Yuhyun held back on her comments until she saw Haewon's phone light up. She picked it up while Haewon was driving and saw a message. Who's Changbin? Yuhyun asked with a smirk. That friend you've been making fun of me for, Haewon answered, full attention on the road. What did he say? Yuhyun looked at the phone, unlocked it, and read the message. He says, just need a break from life, if only for a short while. Want me to reply? She read out loud. Tell him same, I need a break too, Haewon replied. She pulled into the parking lot of the diner and parked the car. You sure he's got a girlfriend? Yuhyun asked in a suspicious tone. I'm sure. I've seen his girlfriend once, so I'm not lying, Haewon replied. She checked her phone and intentionally facepalmed when she saw Yuhyun add a heart emoji to the last message. Changmin checked his phone 3 times in the last 15 minutes. He was at the location Haewon told him, but she was nowhere to be found yet. Maybe she was running late. Maybe she forgot. Maybe... Changbin? Never mind. Changbin looked up from where he was sat and found Haewon getting out of her car and walking up to him. I was beginning to think you weren't going to show, he nervously admitted. Sorry, my friends would not leave me alone, Haewon chuckled. I wouldn't intentionally leave you hanging like this, especially when you're having a rough day. Changbin smiled at her words. So, any particular reason why we're in an empty parking lot near a hospital? He switched gears in the conversation. Haewon chuckled as she walked closer to him. She sat next to Changbin and smiled. Well, this is where I go when I'm having a rough day. When I want to clear my mind, or when I just want to shut my brain off for a little while. Plus, it's near my apartment, so that's a bonus, she calmly explained. Sounds really nice. It's been a while since I've had some time to myself like this. It's really peaceful. Changbin smiled as he leaned back on the bench. It is. If you got something to get off your chest, you can tell me. I promise, I won't tell a soul. Haewon smiled as she put a finger to her lips in a shh motion. Changbin smiled as he pondered on the thoughts. I've just been feeling a little stuck lately. Work's been fine, friendships have been fine. It just feels like life is stagnant. Changbin opened up. Nothing interesting happening? Haewon asked. Sometimes when life feels boring, having something to look forward to helps life not be as stagnant. Not at the moment. We have our work project, and that's about it. Nothing too crazy after that, Changbin replied. Maybe you need a bit of spice in your life? Haewon shrugged. I was feeling like that a year ago when my ex dumped me. I was just coasting along until my friends threw me a party for no reason. Then after that, work picked up, and I got back to my feet. I know that won't help everybody, but it's a start. Maybe I can convince my friends to hang out? We haven't had one of those nights in a while. Changbin smiled. And I'm sorry you went through that. The guy was a huge jerk anyway, but enough about that. Why don't you tell me more about what you do? You said you produce music, right? Can I hear some songs? Haewon smiled as she turned her body towards Changbin. Changbin seemed shocked at her questions, but ultimately smiled. He pulled out his phone and his headphones and handed one earbud to Haewon. She smiled as she took it and placed it in her ear. Changbin found his playlist and a song at random. Haewon was enjoying the music being played while Changbin explained the songs. The next song that played was called Doodle. Haewon listened carefully in the music and the lyrics of Changbin's rap. She was enjoying the song and loved how confident Changbin sounded on the track. Changbin, you're amazing, Haewon said with a huge smile. Changbin seemed taken aback and desperately attempted to hide how flustered he was. Oh, well, thank you, he smiled as he looked anywhere but Haewon. I love how your personality shines in your raps. To me, it makes these songs feel complete, Haewon explained as she placed a gentle hand on Changbin's shoulder to grab his attention. Changbin looked Haewon in the eyes. He noticed a sparkle in her eyes as she complimented him. Haewon tilted her head and smiled. Changmin felt it was harder to hide his blush. He handed his phone to Haewon and looked away. How about you play some of your favorite songs? I played you some of mine. It's only fair, he said, still attempting to hide his blush. Haewon let out a soft giggle before taking his phone and looking through it to find her favorite songs. As she was searching, a text banner popped up at the top of the phone. Nutty. Where the hell are you? You need to get your ass home now. Haewon glanced up at Changbin briefly before ignoring the notification. She continued to search for one of her favorite songs, Some Love. Haewon kept looking at Changbin as they listened to the song. She was lost in thought for a moment as she kept staring at Changbin. Whatever you're going through, I hope you'll be alright. I hope so too. 'Cause we all need some love. Yeah, there is a song, Changbin solo, Doodle, which, cool song, really cool song by the way, and Some Love is Some Love by Dreamcatcher. You know, 'cause we all need some love. Highly recommend those songs. Changbin released a heavy sigh as he walked into his apartment. He was gone for at least 3 hours. Hanging out with Haewon was a lot of fun and he enjoyed his time. But now he's got to face the consequences. 2 steps into his living room and he was met with hell in a handbasket. Seo Changbin, where in the hell were you all evening? Nadi walked up to him and scolded him. I was out with a friend, we were hanging out and lost track of time, Changbin answered reluctantly. He tried to walk past Nadi, but she blocked him from moving. Who were you with? Nadi asked, glaring at Changbin. That's none of your business, Changbin protested as he tried walking further into the room. It is too my business. I need to know who you were with, Nadi demanded, following Changbin into the living room. I never demanded to know who you're with when you're out with friends. Why are you demanding me to tell you? Changbin asked, voice raising slightly. Why are you getting defensive? Are you cheating on me? Nadi accused as she crossed her arms. She was seething with anger. Changbin was physically taken aback. Absolutely not. You're accusing me of cheating on you when I lose track of time? Sorry, I like to hang out with friends? He defended himself. Well, this needs to stop because next thing you know, you're getting home later and later, and you'll eventually cheat even if you say you're not right now, Nadi argued back. Nadi, you're talking in circles. Would you feel better if I did cheat on you? Changbin raised his voice even more. No! Exactly! Changbin released a sigh before walking to his bedroom. I'm going to bed. Don't bother coming in. He bitterly spat as he slammed the door to his room. He walked to his bed and tossed himself onto it. This was exactly what he wanted to avoid. He procrastinated the important conversation and received a scolding as punishment. Words he wanted to say were cast aside the moment Nadi started the argument. Wanting to distract himself, he pulled out his phone. There were a few unread messages. Some of them were work-related, and others from friends. One of them stood out to him. It was a message from Haewon asking if he made it home. Cracking a small smile, he replied, saying he did. Before receiving a reply, a soft knock on the door echoed through the room. Changbin, can I come in? Nadi asked quietly from behind the door. Changbin sighed as he set his phone down. He stood up and walked to the door. Unless you're apologizing, I'm not opening the door, he sternly replied. The room was silent for a few moments. I'm sorry for accusing you of cheating, Nadi softly said. Changbin opened the door slowly and saw Nadi in tears. I just get so nervous when you don't answer me, and I get scared you're gonna find someone better. Changbin pulled Nadi into a hug. This happens a lot, you know. These insecurities of yours stop you from enjoying everything. It gets tiring after a while. You have to trust me, he calmly told her. Nadi nodded as she hugged Changbin tighter. She pulled him in for a kiss to maybe forget about her feelings. Changbin reciprocated easily, but it never felt quite enough. Music gets kinda sad when when that happened. Okay. Chapter 4. Boyfriend? Question mark? Changbin, you look like you died 3 times over. What happened? Changbin glared at Mino as he walked into the studio. Today, the crew was shooting for a video, and everyone had to show up early. Mino laughed at how tired Changbin looked. Changbin walked further into the studio and met up with Chan waiting in a chair nearby the vanity. Chan seemed shocked by Changbin's tired expression. Morning, sunshine, Chan chuckled. Morning, Changbin tiredly replied as he sat down in the chair next to Chan. Makeup artist should be here soon. The sooner we get ready, the sooner we can film, Changbin calmly explained. How much sleep did you get? Like 2 hours? Changbin replied tiredly. Probably had a long night, if you know what I'm saying. Mino smirked as he stood by the doorway. Changbin replied by throwing a crumpled up paper at Mino. So I take it your talk with Nadi the other day went okay? Chan asked as he leaned back in the chair. Went as okay as you can imagine. Lots of arguing, lots of me talking, lots of her not responding, lots of sex, the usual, Changbin shrugged. Chan and Mino shot one another a look. They were about to chime in before Mino was quietly shoved out of the way. A zombified Haewon walked through the room, practically dragging her trunk of makeup. She lifted it and dropped it on the table, resulting in a loud thud. Who's first? She groggily asked. It'd be me, Chan said with a smile. Everyone should be here in the next hour. Chan, it's 5 a.m., Haewon bluntly replied. Yes. Did you even sleep at all? No. Haewon slowly looked up and closed her eyes. She dramatically took a deep breath and released the heaviest sigh. If this is the reason why we're meeting so early, I will put the tackiest pink eyeshadow I can find all over your face, she threatened. Mino busted up in a fit of laughter while Changbin lightly chuckled. How much is he paying you? I'll pay you double and we can go take a nap, Changbin joked. Haewon laughed as she started working on Chan's makeup. I'll take the nap for free, she responded with a chuckle. You don't want to be paid? Chan playfully asked. Haewon glared at Chan as she held her eyeshadow brush next to the hot pink shade. Don't test me, she scolded Chan, and he laughed. He just laughed in response. She got back to work on the makeup and changed the subject. How's the project going? It's going well. We just need today's shoot and the editors to put everything together and it'll be up for review, Chan answered. Sounds fun, Haewon replied. Have you guys done projects like these before? We've done one last year, but it didn't go very well, Changbin answered. We couldn't find quality people to help, and work suffered because of it. If this doesn't go well, I guess I can kiss this job goodbye. Haewon dramatically sighed. We'll make sure this project goes smoothly, Chan chuckled. Plus, you have other clients you need to attend to, so what's one more with us? Right, Haewon smiled. I guess it's a good thing we're doing this so early. I'll be busy in the coming weeks to work a few weddings. I guess it is that season, Changbin mindlessly replied. Did you say you were going to propose to your girlfriend in the next few months? Mino asked Changbin. How's that going? It'll happen when it happens, Changbin brushed off Mino's question. Proposals are no joke, Haewon spoke up. She started working on Chan's foundation as she continued talking. While there really is not a right time or place, there is a right feeling. One of my friends is getting married next month, and her fiancé proposed in the backyard while they were cooking. If you feel it in your heart it's the right moment, do it. The 3 men in the room seemed surprised by Haewon's statements. If anything, she was more than qualified to speak on the matter. "We bow to you, Haewon," Mino joked as he made the bowing motion with his hands. Haewon let out a giggle and finished up with Chan's makeup. As she was cleaning her brushes, Hyunjin and Jisung walked in the room. They quickly greeted everyone with a quick good morning, as Mino was the next to get his makeup done. Jisung went to bug Mino while Hyunjin sat next to Changbin. Everyone was occupied with their own conversations for the next half hour. While talking with Changbin, Hyunjin checked his phone and saw he had a text message. "Who's texting you so early in the morning?" Changbin joked as he peeked over at Hyunjin's phone. Hyunjin gave Changbin a playfully dramatic look before looking at the message. It was a good morning message from Nari? Changbin looked at the message with a confused look. He checked his own phone and found no messages. That was odd. He watched almost helplessly as Hyunjin replied to the message. Changbin tried his best to hide how disappointed he was, but the look did not go unnoticed by Haewon. That just feels like a stab. A stab in the heart. Whew. Whew. Loud music, people chatting, and the sound of pins getting knocked down was the sound of an eventful Saturday night. Chen offered for everyone to go bowling for the night to celebrate the completion of a work project. Chan, Mino, Changbin, Hyunjin, and Jisung were excited to celebrate. A few of them had +1, so there was a full party. Nadi smiled as she clung onto Changbin's arm. The two followed the group to their lanes and started putting their shoes on. The night started out in a fun atmosphere. Everyone was laughing as they got the bowling game set up. "Anyone want to grab drinks?" Chan asked while inputting the names. "Changbin can do it," Nadi said with a smile. "You will, won't you?" Changbin sighed. "I was going to offer myself, but this works too," he replied. He stood up and asked everyone what they wanted. He pulled out his phone so it would be easier to track the drinks. "I'll be back," he called out to the group before heading to the counter. He turned his head and looked back at the group after a few steps. He saw everyone chatting away. Normal. Then he saw Nadi sit next to Hyunjin and casually talk with him. Normal. Changbin ignored the feeling in his gut as he approached the concession stand. He ordered everyone's drinks and waited patiently. He was snapped out of his thoughts as a familiar face approached him. "Changbin?" Changbin smiled as he put his phone away. "Haewon, what are you doing here?" he asked with a smile. Friends decided to do one big party instead of separate bachelor and bachelorette parties. Haewon shrugged with a smile. "What are you doing here?" "We're celebrating the success of our project," Changbin replied. He took in Haewon's appearance. She was wearing a peach-colored long-sleeve shirt paired with black jean shorts. Simple, yet she makes it look like the most gorgeous outfit. Wait. "That's good to hear," Haewon smiled. "By the way, you look nice." Changbin blushed slightly at the compliment. He was wearing a tight black t-shirt with light-wash jeans. He was dressed simply, but if it was enough to earn a compliment from Haewon... it was enough to earn a compliment from Haewon. "Thank you. You look great yourself." He smiled and threw a compliment back. Changbin did not miss the small blush on Haewon's cheeks. "Thank you." She smiled. She was about to speak more until Changbin's drink order was called. There were several drinks and a few drink carriers. She noticed Changbin pause for a moment while looking at the drinks. "Need any help?" she offered as she grabbed one of the drink carriers. "That would be great," Changbin replied as he grabbed the others. "So how have you been?" "I've been great. Work's been busy lately, but I'm managing. How are you?" Haewon smiled as she followed him to his group. "I'm alright. This week's had its ups and downs, hoping to end it with an upswing," Changbin answered. "Upswing is good. Maybe a downswing wouldn't be bad. If you're swinging down to beat up all the bad things that happened." Haewon nervously chuckled at her own joke. Changbin failed to hold in a laugh. Wouldn't it be a beat down? He joked back which earned a hearty laugh from Haewon. It was a short walk, but Chaewon? Wow. But Changbin and Haewon arrived at Changbin's table. Some of the guys recognized Haewon and gave her a quick greeting. She looked at the guys with a smile. Her eyes eventually landed on Nadi, who was glaring daggers into her soul. She just smiled in return, turning her attention back to Changbin. She patted his arm and turned her body towards the concession stand. "I'll catch you later, Changbin," she gently said before walking away. Changbin gave a small wave before distributing the drinks. He handed Nadi her drink, but instead of any kind of thanks, he received a glare. "Who was that?" she asked. "She was our makeup artist for our project. You've met her once," Changbin replied. "Yeah, Haewon's cool," Hyunjin casually said as Changbin handed his drink to him. Nadi kept quiet but still glared at Changbin. Changbin glared back before handing out the rest of the drinks. The bowling started shortly after and everyone seemed to have a good time. Haewon returned to her party with a few drinks for her friends. She was met with a smirk from one of them. "So, Haewon, who was that hottie you were talking to?" the girl smirked. "Gaihyun, that's none of your business," Haewon bluntly replied. Gaihyun kept her smirk. "Don't pretend that didn't happen. I saw how he looked at you," she said as she nudged Haewon. Haewon sighed as she glanced over at Changbin's group. "There's absolutely no way what you saw could be true. He has a girlfriend," she replied as she pointed to the girl next to Changbin. Gaihyun followed Haewon's gaze and saw Changbin and the girl talking. They appeared to be bickering. After a few moments, the girl walked away from Changbin and started acting friendly with another guy. "I don't know. Something tells me that there's parts of the story you're missing," Gaihyun slyly said as she pointed to the girl. The girl flipped her long pastel pink hair and playfully grabbed the other guy's arm. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say that person there is her boyfriend. You may have a chance." Haewon pouted as she looked at the girl and the guy. She remembered the first day working with the guys and how Changbin's girlfriend was all over Hyunji? That sounded right. Maybe Gaihyun was right. Maybe there were parts of the story she was missing. "Just because you have the slightest possibility of being right doesn't mean I'm going to act on anything," she told Gaihyun. Gaihyun looked at Haewon with a sad smile before the two turned back to their group. Their group was a fairly big party with everyone wearing some shade of peach, with two people wearing white. Their party went off without a hitch. The girl with the white shirt walked up to Haewon with a smile. "Haewon, thank you for organizing the party." She beamed a bright smile. "You're welcome, Sujin." Haewon smiled. "Also, real talk." Sujin smiled as she wrapped an arm around Haewon. "That guy over there, you like him, right?" Haewon looked over and saw Sujin pointing directly at Changbin. He was being loud and chaotic with his friends. There was something about his smile. "I mean, I don't not like him," Haewon answered. Haewon was immediately caught off guard when Changbin looked over at her from across the bowling alley. She smiled and waved at him, while he sweetly smiled back with a small wave. His smile was wiped from his face when the girl with pink hair looked at him and looked back at Sujin and Haewon. "They won't last," Sujin said, while smiling and waving to the girl. "Just take your time." Haewon took in the words of her friend, all while giving the girl a sweet smile. The end of the night approached and everyone started to clean up. Nadi excused herself to go to the restroom. She smiled as she walked towards the front. She quickly did her business, and as she was washing her hands, a familiar girl walked out of another stall and made eye contact with her through the mirror. Haewon nodded her head towards Nadi in acknowledgement before washing her own hands. The awkward silence overtook the restroom. Haewon quickly finished up and tried to leave swiftly. stay away from him. Haewon stopped in her tracks. Did she hear her right? Excuse me? She asked as she turned around to face Nadi. You heard me. Stay away from Changbin, Nadi said as she walked towards Haewon. She stood slightly taller than Haewon. Haewon tilted her head in confusion. And who are you to tell me that? She asked calmly. I am his girlfriend. He doesn't need a bitch like you to distract him. Nadi spat at her while glaring. Haewon did her best to hide her true feelings. But the words slipped out before she had a chance to stop them. Oh, Changbin's your boyfriend? I thought it was Hyunjin. Nadi was taken aback. She was clearly caught off guard as she stuttered out, Leave Hyunjin out of this! Haewon took note of the nickname. She sighed as she turned around without another word before she could possibly regret any more of her words. Hey, I'm not done with you yet, Nadi shouted as she reached and grabbed Haewon's arm. To Nadi's surprise, Haewon moved out of the way, causing her to stumble out of the restroom's open door. She was face to face with Changbin. Nadi, are you okay? You were in there for a while, Changbin asked Nadi. He held her shoulders and checked to make sure she was okay. I'm fine, Nadi replied, almost coldly. Just a run-in with a very unfriendly person. She shoved me out after verbally berating me. Changbin nodded at the reply as he guided Nadi back to their group. Haewon released a sigh as she left her spot from just inside the door and walked back to her group. She looked over at Changbin and Nadi and was surprised that Changbin was looking back at her. Whew, man, that's a run-in. That's a very particular run-in. Seems stressful. I wouldn't want to be a part of that. Nope, not at all. Whew. A few weeks passed since the parties at the bowling alley. Changbin's weeks had been weird. He would text Haewon every now and then, but he would be met with short answers. Maybe she was busy? She did say she was busy with work and also wedding preparations for her friend. He was snapped out of his thoughts when Hyunjin walked up to him and smacked his shoulders. Yo, let's go grab some food, he simply requested. Changbin honored the request as he stood up and walked with Hyunjin out of the building. It was the perfect day outside. Sunshine, barely any clouds, and warm temperatures. Changbin and Hyunjin chatted about something completely unimportant when they stumbled on some commotion at the park. I guess today is a perfect day for a wedding, Hyunjin commented. It is a beautiful day, Changbin replied as he looked at the groomsmen and bridesmaids. Peach. Beautiful color. His eyes unintentionally scanned the bridesmaids and froze. There she was. Haewon was chatting with one of the other girls. The peach floor-length strapless gown fit her perfectly. Her hair was lightly curled with one half pinned back with small peach roses. Changbin, Earth to Changbin. Hyunjin waved a hand in front of Changbin's face. What? Changbin snapped nervously. You good? Hyunjin replied. Yeah, just recognized Haewon in there, Changbin said as he motioned towards the bridesmaids. Hyunjin looked over at them and noticed her. She looks beautiful, he simply commented. Changbin gave Hyunjin a slight side-eye before turning back to Haewon, who was walking towards them. She was walking and chatting with another bridesmaid, who groaned loudly while Haewon laughed. The two girls got to the sidewalk and walked in the direction of a nearby fast food place. Out of curiosity, Changbin and Hyunjin followed the two. A few short minutes later, they walked inside the building and found Haewon and her friend waiting in line. They were chatting casually until Haewon looked over and found Changbin and Hyunjin. Hey guys! Haewon flashed a smile. Hey! Changbin smiled awkwardly. What are you guys up to? Haewon asked as she fidgeted with her hands. We're just taking a break from work to grab some food. What are you up to? Changbin asked. Haewon looked at Changbin, then at Hyunjin before answering. Bride wants a shake, so we're getting her a shake. Sounds fun, Hyunjin replied with a chuckle. Bridesmaids run around for the bride. Gahyun here wanted a shake too, so it won't be a fool's errand. Haewon smiled. Don't call me out like that, Gahyun chuckled. Well, don't let us stop you from your ice cream dreams, Changbin laughed along. Hopefully our dreams won't turn into nightmares, Haewon commented. Shouldn't. With beauties like you two, dreams will come true, Hyunjin commented almost mindlessly. Haewon and Gahyun blushed slightly. Gahyun turned shy while Haewon smiled. Thank you, Hyunjin. Do you always compliment the ladies like that? She joked. Careful, Hyunjin. You might woo the wrong person one day doing that, Changbin joked. But there was a hint of seriousness. Hyunjin and Gahyun laughed while Haewon wore a sad expression. She was about to speak up, but the line moved, signaling it was their turn to order. She let the conversation be as she ordered 3 chocolate shakes. A few moments later, Haewon and Gahyun received their orders. As they were leaving, Haewon stopped next to Changbin. She gave him a soft smile. I'll text you when I've got time, she said as she walked away. Hyunjin took note of Changbin's smile as Haewon walked away. He decided not to say anything until they got sat down with their food. As soon as they did just that, Hyunjin decided to rip the band-aid off. What's going on between you and her? Hyunjin bluntly asked. Who? Changbin replied, clearly avoiding the subject. Haewon. What about her? Are you going to tell me what's going on between you and Haewon? Are you going to tell me what's going on between you and Nadi? Hyunjin visibly recoiled. Where did that come from? Haewon is none of your concern, but my concern is what's happening between you and my girlfriend, Changbin replied as he crossed his arms. Hyunjin seemed speechless. There's nothing happening with Nadi. We're just friends. Nothing more, nothing less, he defended himself. Then why does she treat you a whole lot nicer than me? Changbin asked what had been on his mind for months. Hyunjin froze. He could not think of an answer. She doesn't, though. Does she? He pondered. She does. I might be the only one that sees it, but she does, Changbin replied. Listen, I'm not totally mad, but I am a bit irritated that you're bringing up Haewon and I when Nadi is doing the same with you. Hyunjin hesitated on a response. He had no idea Changbin felt that way. There was no way Nadi was treating him differently than Changbin. Hyunjin decided to keep silent on the matter. Changbin took in the silence as confirmation. He did not want to address things so harshly, but it was weighing on his mind for a while. Listen, I literally don't care if you're friends with Nadi. I care if there's actual feelings there, he explained. There's not, Hyunjin immediately replied. Changbin nodded and the two continued to eat. The atmosphere was heavy, but not completely unbearable. Changbin was snapped out of his thoughts when his phone went off. It was a text message from Haewon with a picture attached. The picture was of Haewon in a bridesmaid's dress standing next to a few sunflowers. Don't tell her I sent this, but isn't she beautiful? Sometimes you gotta have the tough conversations. Whew. Right. Changbin leaned back in his chair as he finished his work for the night. He checked his phone for the time and it read 1:26 a.m. He also saw several messages from Nadi. Are you done yet? I want to do a movie night. Do you want me to just go to your apartment and get set up? Okay, don't talk to me. I'll be at a friend's place. Call me when you're done with work. Groaning, he exited out of the text thread. She knew he was working late tonight. Why did she want to do a movie night? He shook his head to himself. He was done with work, but he was too exhausted to even call her. He scrolled through his text threads and saw Haewon's name. On a whim, he sent a message. How's the wedding going? As quickly as he set his phone down... Hold on. So sorry, just got a phone call. Kind of important. Everything's good. Everything's good. Just a little irritated now because I thought the post office saga was over. But apparently it's not. So that'll be a rant for another day. Alright, let me just start this over. So I'm so sorry about that. Groaning, he exited out the text thread. She knew he was working late tonight. Why did she want to do a movie night? He shook his head to himself. He was done with work, but he was too exhausted to even call her. He scrolled through his text thread and saw Haewon's name. On a whim, he sent a message. How's the wedding going? As quickly as he set his phone down, he received a reply. Party is dying down. Kinda bored right now. Changbin seemed to have an idea. I just finished work. We could hang out for a bit. Changbin grabbed his jacket and left the studio. As he walked outside, he received a text from Haewon, saying yes to hanging out. Changbin walked over to the park and saw the party from far away. He waited for a few minutes before Haewon stumbled towards Changbin. She looked a little disheveled, but still beautiful. Hey, she greeted Changbin with a smile. Hey there, Changbin greeted back. Think anyone would notice you gone? Nah, Haewon laughed. Bride and groom left hours ago. All that's left are the party animals, and I'd rather not. Fair enough, Changbin laughed as he stood up. We can walk back to my car and go from there? Sounds like a plan, Haewon smiled as she walked with Changbin towards the studio. The two walked comfortably for the next few moments. A breeze kicked up that made Haewon shiver. Changbin immediately took off his jacket and put it around Haewon. She uttered a small thanks as the two kept walking. They arrived at Changbin's car shortly after, and Changbin opened the passenger door for Haewon. She climbed into the car carefully and looked around. The car felt like the essence of Changbin. So, how was your day today? She asked as Changbin climbed into the driver's seat. Busy, mostly just working, Changbin answered as he started the car. How was the wedding? Wedding was fine. No hiccups, which is a miracle. Haewon chuckled. And as much as I love my friends, it got too crowded for me. I understand that, Changbin replied. We can go somewhere quiet if you want. I'd be okay going anywhere with you, Haewon blurted out before quickly looking away. Changbin laughed at the reaction. I'd be okay going anywhere with you too. Haewon glanced over at Changbin for a brief moment. Don't say things like that, she muttered. Changbin seemed to have not heard what Haewon said. He drove away and headed in the direction of a familiar place. Haewon seemed to recognize the area and smiled. Changbin pulled into the parking lot and parked the car. I wouldn't be opposed to staying in the car, he chuckled. I wouldn't either, Haewon smiled as she slipped her arms in Changbin's jacket proper. Is there anything on your mind? Changbin asked. I've noticed you haven't been texting as much as before. Are you okay? Haewon looked at Changbin with a surprised expression. She looked away for a moment to gather her thoughts. I'd be lying if I said I was fine. Just been thinking about stuff. She spoke her feelings. What stuff are you thinking about? Changbin asked. He turned his body to face Haewon. Haewon mirrored the action and turned to face Changbin. She leaned on the seat and thought about how to answer. I overheard some not-so-nice things about me recently. Sorry, I just kinda shut down on you. I was lucky enough to distract myself with work and the wedding preparations, but there was a particular moment that kept playing in my head that I can't seem to shake, she said as she avoided eye contact with Changbin. Changbin watched her carefully. Don't let something like that get to you. And it's okay to talk about what's bothering you from time to time. You can even talk to me about anything bothering you. I'd like to think I know you well enough by now for you to talk to me, he calmly said with a smile. Haewon smiled a little at the statement. Thanks, Changbin. I know I shouldn't let stuff like that bother me, but I can't help it sometimes. Changbin pulled out his phone and looked through his playlist. I know those feelings exactly. You know, you should ignore it, but it still lingers, he said. Never thought you'd know that feeling, Haewon replied. You seem so happy all the time, like you've got everything put together. You do too, Changbin immediately called out. You seem to do things so effortlessly, and here I am falling through the cracks. What do you mean by that? Haewon asked, hugging Changbin's jacket tighter subconsciously. Can I play you a song? Haewon looked at Changbin in the eyes. She nodded carefully in reply as Changbin hit play. Streetlight. The song was a slower song than the songs they had listened to together. Haewon paid attention to the lyrics and started to feel emotional. The lyrics spoke to her. How did he know exactly what to play? Tears started welling up in her eyes when a particular lyric was heard. I need someone before I collapse. Ask me again if I'm okay. Please, anybody. Haewon tried to stop her tears from falling. She felt seen, and also realized Changbin was the one who played the song. What is he feeling right now? She got her answer when Changbin cautiously reached for her hand. She slowly moved her hand closer, and he gently laced their fingers together and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. His hand felt warm. Holding Changbin's hand felt like he was the one looking for comfort. As the song ended, Haewon looked at Changbin with tears in her eyes. She practically lunged at him and wrapped her arms around his waist in a comforting hug. Same goes to you too. You can talk to me, Haewon said, words getting muffled in Changbin's shirt. Changbin naturally wrapped his arms around Haewon. Warm. It felt warm. Thank you, Haewon. You seem to understand me more than anyone right now, he said. Haewon pulled away with a smile. It's nice to feel seen, isn't it? She asked. She reached up and wiped a stray tear from Changbin's eyes. Sunflower, Changbin thought as the two decided to shift gears in the conversation to something cheerful. And the chapter title was Like a Streetlight. And also, that is a song, a Changbin solo song featuring Bangchan. First time I listened to that song, it did make me cry. Because, yeah, the lyrics to that song really get to me. Chapter 6, Phone a Friend. The sound of soft rain hitting the roof echoed in the cafe. Nadi released a sigh as she sat down for her break. She checked her phone and found no messages. With a pout, she aggressively placed her phone on the table. The bell of the door snapped Nadi out of her thoughts, and she looked at the door and smiled when she saw Hyunjin walk in. She waved at him and motioned for him to sit with her. "You seem busy," Hyunjin joked as he sat down in the seat across from Nadi. "This whole place is brimming with customers," Nadi sarcastically commented. "No, actually, I'm super bored." Hyunjin chuckled a little at the statement. "What do you want me to do about it?" he asked with a curious smirk. "Just stay here and keep me company, I guess. I'm the only one here today since everyone else decided to take the day off." Nadi sighed as she leaned back in her chair. "Sounds rough," Hyunjin replied. He glanced at Nadi's phone that just lit up with a new text message. "How's everything with Changbeom?" Nadi looked up at Hyunjin with a questioning look. "Everything's fine, I guess," she answered as she replied to the text. That didn't sound very confident. Hyunjin chuckled, but received a glare in return. "I don't know what's with him lately," Nadi sighed. "No matter what I do, he just pushes back, and we end up fighting damn near every day." "You guys sure have been fighting a lot," Hyunjin mindlessly commented. "I swear, he starts it," Nadi pouted. "I'm just trying to bring up issues between us, and he gets combative. It's not my fault he's doing things to blatantly upset me. I tell him I don't like something, and he goes and does it anyway. I've tried to get him to stop over and over, but it's a never-ending cycle." "If you're having all these problems, why are you with him?" Hyunjin asked. "He's the love of my life." Nadi answered like it was the easiest question in the world. Hyunjin cocked an eyebrow as he thought about the reply. "Love is one hell of a drug," he simply said. "Do you need to take your mind off of things for a bit? Sometimes when you get frustrated with something, taking a break for a short while can help." Nadi smiled at the words. "Thanks, Hyunjin. You always know what to say," she said as she leaned on the table. "Benny should be working late today. We can hang out after my shift today." "Then why does he treat you a whole lot nicer than me?" Those words replayed in Hyunjin's mind. He smiled at Nadi and kept his thoughts to himself. The two kept talking for the next few hours. The cafe remained empty until right before Nadi's shift ended. A group of 3 women walked into the cafe, chatting away. Nadi put on a smile as she walked to the counter. As she was taking orders, she noticed one of the girls in the group standing out. She recognized the short orange hair. "Haewon, right?" Nadi asked with a smile. Haewon looked up from her phone and locked eyes with Nadi. Whatever Haewon was feeling, she hid it well. "Yeah, how are you?" she hesitantly asked. "I'm doing okay. Just a slog today. What can I get you?" Nadi kept a smile. "Hot chocolate is fine," Haewon simply answered. Nadi nodded as she inputted the orders and got to work on them. The 2 other girls started chatting away while Haewon kept to herself. She looked around the empty cafe and noticed Hyunjin. She waved at him and Hyunjin waved back. "Hey!" Hyunjin smiled at Haewon. "Hey Hyunjin, how are you?" Haewon asked with a smile. "I've been better. Just bored mainly. What about you?" Hyunjin replied. "More or less the same. Just got done with work and was going to head home. I can't wait for the glorious meeting that is my butt and my couch," Haewon joked, earning a laugh out of Hyunjin. "Nothing beats the ship of one with their couch," Hyunjin added with a laugh. "My OTP," Haewon kept laughing. Their laughter caught the attention of Nadi. She glared at the 2 of them. She finished making the orders, and as she was about to call their names, she saw Hyunjin and Haewon supposedly exchanging phone numbers. She fought with everything within herself not to crush the cup she was holding. After a long day of work, Changmin finally arrived at his apartment building. Part of him wanted to walk slowly up to his apartment. He rode the elevator in quiet despair. He checked his phone and looked at the message from Nadi. The elevator doors open and he walked through the hall. He got to his door inside. Knowing who was beyond the door, he hesitated. One inner pep talk later, he opened the door quickly. He walked into the kitchen and froze when he saw something on the kitchen counter. A bouquet of yellow roses and sunflowers sitting in a big, clear glass vase. He mindlessly walked to the flowers and noticed the card had his name on it. While he looked over to the flowers, Nadi walked in the room. Those showed up 15 minutes ago. The person who delivered it will not tell me who they're from, Nadi calmly said. Changmin nodded as he looked at the roses carefully. Off top of my head, I know yellow roses mean friendship, so I wonder if a friend sent this. He spoke his thoughts. Which friend do you think? Nadi asked, sounding somewhat bitter. Why does that matter? Changbin snapped. Why do you think? Someone is trying to take you away from me. Nadi raised her voice. You don't own me, Nadi, Changbin yelled. Why does it matter that a friend sent a gift to me? When was the last time you ever gifted me anything? That's not the point. That is the point. Nadi looked extremely offended. Her thoughts were scrambled as she tried to think of what to say. I've gotten you plenty of gifts. You probably don't even remember the last thing I gave you, a black and silver watch. What? For my birthday, several months ago, you gave me a black and silver watch. I used to wear it all the time, but I stopped wearing it when it broke at the gym. Changbin stared daggers at Nadi. You stopped wearing it because some bitch told you to, Nadi tried arguing. Are you absolutely serious? Changbin failed to hold back a scoff. That watch is in the top drawer of my nightstand. You can take a look at it if you want. Nadi scoffed and stormed off to the bedroom. Changbin rolled his eyes as he pulled out his phone and took a picture of the bouquet sitting on the counter. He inspected the flowers closer and noticed a card stuffed in the flowers. The card said, like a streetlight. Changbin filled in the blanks as to who sent the flowers and smiled. Nadi stormed back in and threw the broken watch at him. Nadi walked right up to him and held out her hand. I need your phone, she demanded. No, Changbin flatly refused. Binny, I'm not asking. Nadi stood her ground. Why do you need it? Changbin asked, keeping a tight grip on his phone. I need to know if you're talking to other women, Nadi said naturally. You are not getting my phone, Changbin protested as Nadi lunged at him. Nadi tried to grab Changbin's phone, but he held it out of reach of her. In a desperate attempt to grab the phone, Nadi climbed on a chair to reach the phone. She did not anticipate the momentum carrying her so far. As soon as she grabbed the phone, Changbin reached for it again and flung Nadi's hand that held the phone. Changbin watched in horror as his phone screen shattered. Nadi scoffed and shoved him. Now look what you've done. If you would have just handed me the phone, it wouldn't have broke. You're hiding something I know. Get out. Nadi stopped in her tracks. Binny, what's gotten into you? Out. Changbin, you're scaring me. What's going? I said get out! Nadi flinched. She looked at Changbin, who looked extremely angry. Nadi sluggishly grabbed her things and left Changbin's apartment without another word. As soon as the door closed, Changbin released a heavy sigh. He walked over to where his phone was and picked it up. Luckily, it still worked, but the crippling cracked screen was an issue. Sighing once more, he grabbed his things and left his apartment. Changbin walked out of the store in the mall with a little relief. He looked at his brand new phone and responded to a few messages. Still nothing from Nadi. That did not necessarily hurt his feelings. He looked up from his phone and saw something interesting from across the way. It was a familiar person. He walked over to the person immediately and managed to sneak up on them. The person was on their phone and appeared to be sending a text message. Changbin did his best to keep quiet as he snuck up right behind them. Haewon, you better not be sending dirty messages. Haewon screamed and jumped with her whole body and tossed her phone. With quick reflexes, she caught her phone in midair with her left hand. Changbin! She playfully glared at him. So, were you sending dirty messages? Changbin looked at her innocently. I cannot confirm nor deny, Haewon laughed. Anyway, what are you up to, Changbin? Changbin held up his new phone with a nervous smile. Had to get a new one. The screen on the old one shattered completely, he carefully admitted. Haewon looked at him with concern, but decided not to question anything. She looked at the brand new phone and thought of an idea. Well, since you got a brand new phone, might as well find a case for it, she said with a smile. Changbin smiled back as he walked with Haewon through the mall. Haewon seemed dead set on a specific store. Changbin chuckled at her determined attitude. They arrived at a small shop that was filled with a wide assortment of accessories and knickknacks. Haewon walked straight to the stand by the register. It was filled with a wide assortment of phone cases. She turned to Changbin with a smile. Pick whatever you want, it's on me, she said as she motioned for him to look. You don't have to do that, Changbin said as he looked through the phone cases. I can pay for things myself. I know, but I just wanted to do something nice for you, Haewon replied as she looked closer at a wolf case. You've done a lot of nice things for me, Changbin replied as he picked up a duck case. I do it because you deserve it, Haewon calmly said. Then a flash of pink caught her attention. She picked up the phone case and smiled. What's that? Changbin asked curiously. He was handed the phone case with a cute character that was a combination of a pig and a rabbit. I love it! Haewon smiled as she took it to the register before Changbin could protest. He pouted as she paid for the phone case. She walked up to Changbin with a smile. Now then, let's get this open so you can put it on, she said as she struggled to open the packaging. Changbin chuckled as he silently took the phone case and opened the packaging with ease. He carefully put the phone case on his phone and looked happy with how it looked. Thank you, Haewon, he smiled at Haewon. You're welcome, Changbin, Haewon replied. So, I meant to ask, why are you at the mall? Changbin asked, ignoring how nervous he was feeling. Oh, I need to stop by some makeup stores. I ran out of some stuff for work, so I need to replace them, Haewon answered. Would you like to come with me? Of course, Changbin smiled. It's the least I can do. Plus, I can use some time away from home. I must warn you, I'll probably use you as my test subject for some products. Using my own hand gets boring and not too accurate at times. Haewon giggled as she started walking deeper into the mall. Hello, Wicked. Hello. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Changbin laughed as he followed Haewon. The two chatted as they walked towards one of the makeup stores. Changbin watched as Haewon grabbed a basket and dove in headfirst into the foundation section. What made you want to become a makeup artist? Changbin asked. He was curious to know, but it also served as a conversation starter. Haewon hummed to herself as she searched for specific shades and placed them in the basket. My grandma. She taught me a lot about makeup when I was younger. There's a whole story, but I don't want to bore you with the details, she answered as she checked the other foundation bottles. You wouldn't bore me, Changbin said with sincerity. Haewon looked anywhere but Changbin to try and hide her blush. I was 12 when I first wore makeup. I was extremely nervous about a choir concert. Grandma decided to help by doing my makeup. She told me that sometimes all we needed is a confidence boost and it'll wipe away our nerves. I did well during the concert that night, despite my mom complaining about the makeup the whole time. She explained and nervously laughed. But I decided to explore makeup after that, and I learned it was a way of helping people, so I set out to help as many people as I can, although it can be draining when working for the wrong kinds of people. Your grandma sounds awesome, Changbin smiled. Remind me to thank your grandma. Without her, we wouldn't have met. I guess that's true, Haewon smiled. I guess it's one of those butterfly effect things. It's crazy, but I'm glad I met you, Changbin smiled as he looked through some of the makeup. I'm glad I met you too, Haewon smiled back. She grabbed a concealer and grabbed Changbin's chin to make him face her. She put on some of the test product on her hand and used her fingers to apply concealer on his face. Looks too greasy, she thought out loud as she grabbed a wipe and wiped the product off his face. Changbin laughed as he watched her in her element. She grabbed quite a few things and used Changbin to test some of them. He was enjoying his time with Haewon. So if you're picking things up for work, what are some of the things you use? He asked as they looked at the lipstick shades. Haewon thought carefully about the question. I use whatever I like, she smiled. It's hard to pinpoint, but I find some products I trust won't wreck my skin and go from there. Guess you can't really make up for products you want. Changbin cracked a joke with a mischievous grin. Haewon started laughing out loud. She shook her head while laughing. She smirked as she grabbed a tube of lipstick. Maybe I should make your lips stick to stop the puns. She said through her chuckles. Changbin laughed out loud. The two continued laughing as they shopped more in the makeup store. Haewon placed the basket at the register and used a credit card to purchase the plethora of makeup. She walked out of the store while Changbin hung back. His thoughts were screaming at him that she probably already has this, but he wanted to do something nice for her. He grabbed a single product and went to pay for it. He quickly caught up to Haewon and handed her a small bag. Haewon was visibly surprised. Changbin, what's this? She asked as she grabbed the small bag, while Changbin grabbed the bigger bags from her. A thank you for the flowers. No, so cute. So cute. And of course, right? Gotta have the puns. Gotta crack the puns. Oh yeah, that's empty. Sad. Oh well, I have another green tea bottle. It's all good. What chapter are we on again? Chapter 7. Party like it's 1999. Oh yeah, that was the title of this. I think this one's the longest chapter. No, maybe not. I can't remember. Is it the longest chapter? I'm not sure. Let me check, because I have written stuff. No, it is not. That's kind of impressive. Alright, chapter 7. Party like it's 1999. No. Naughty, I said no. Changbin sighed as he leaned back in the chair. Why are you so against it? He asked, grabbing his coffee cup and sipped on it. It's an exclusive thing. I felt so left out when you went to it the week before Christmas, Nadia explained. Sorry, you weren't born in 99? Changbin tilted his head in confusion. I've been to it before. Nothing is gonna happen. I'm a big boy. I can handle myself. Nadia pouted as she crossed her arms. Nothing I say can change your mind, will it? Babe, I don't see these guys very often. Woo-young said he was looking forward to seeing everyone. I wouldn't want to disappoint him. Changbin mirrored her pout. I still don't like this. Nadia pouted. What don't you like? Nadia and Changbin turned their attention to Hyunjin, who poked his head behind Nadia. She's not a fan of me going to the 99-liner hangout this weekend, Changbin told Hyunjin. Why? You got to hang out with your friends last weekend. Changbin Hyung hasn't had the chance to hang out with his friends since before Christmas, Hyunjin reasoned. Well, Changbin hasn't been very nice to me lately, Nadia half-heartedly argued. Look who's talking, Changbin scoffed. Changbin! Nari shot a nasty glare at Changbin. Hyunjin sighed dramatically as he pulled out his phone to send an SOS message in a particular group chat. It's like, SOS, mom and dad are fighting again. It's like, hey guys, mom and dad are fighting again. Oops. Sorry, I had a brief moment of panic that I didn't know if I was muted or not. The panic was real. Because I had a phone call earlier, and I had to mute myself for it. And I had to double check if I came back or not, but I did. Hello, Johnny! Hello, hello! Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day. Hey. Hi! Haewon sighed as she sat down after working with a particular client. She looked at the mess of makeup products on the table and groaned. Her time in the chair was cut short as she stood up to organize the mess before her next client walked in. A chipper-looking man walked in the door with a smile. Haewon smiled. Yosung, correct? That would be correct, Yosung smiled as he sat in the chair. I was told something akin to K-pop? Haewon asked as she prepped her tools. It was a friend's idea. Something fun for the night. Yosung replied as he looked around. A friend of mine recommended you. I'm glad to hear that, Haewon smiled as she started working on Yosung's face. Out of curiosity, which friend was it? You know. Yosung answered, flinching slightly at the pressure Haewon was applying the eyeshadow. He sent you? Haewon laughed as she moved on to eyeliner. I need to keep him quiet. Yosung laughed. There's no keeping him quiet. He said you were good, so I'm here. I appreciate that. Haewon smiled as she grabbed a bigger brush for foundation. We knew each other in college, so I'm glad to know he still says nice things about me. You knew him in college? What year were you born? Yosung asked. Haewon tilted his head back for blending in the foundation to make it seamless. 99, same as you know, she answered. There's a big event this weekend for a bunch of us 99 liners. Would you like to go? The more the merrier, Yosung offered with a smile. How many will be there? Yes. Haewon gave Yosung a small glare. Her expression changed to one of thought pondering. Yuna will be there? She asked, grabbing the small bottle of lip tint. Yes, and Wooyoung, and Dino, and Gahyun, and Suhyun, and Yeojun, and Mark, and... Okay, I'll go. Haewon chuckled. She felt more at ease hearing some familiar names. You seem cool. You'll have fun. I can give you the address of where... I can give you the address when we're done, Yosung smiled. Haewon smiled back. She went back to focusing on her work with feelings of excitement lingering in the back of her mind. Excuse me while I get up to do something really quick. Sorry about that. That took like 2 seconds. Okay, let me get settled back in. Jangmin checked his phone as he walked up to a building. As he double-checked the address, someone walked up to him with a wide smile. Changbin, glad you could make it. Changbin smiled widely. Wooyoung, good to be here, he said as he and Wooyoung shared a brief hug. People are still trickling in, but the party started for the most part, Wooyoung said as he led Changbin inside. The two engaged in small talk as they walked down the hall. A few moments later, they arrived at the big room with lots of people, many of which Changbin recognized. He waved to Wooyoung before walking off to go catch up with his friends who were attending. He was smiling and having fun until he felt his phone buzz. He checked it, and it was constant bombarding from Nadi. Are you done yet? When will you be home? Hurry up already! I need you here. Babe, please hurry it up. Changbin rolled his eyes as he muted his notifications for the night. He was here for fun, not to be nagged by Naughty. After putting his phone back in his pocket, he looked around in hopes to find someone to talk to. His eyes landed on a familiar head of orange hair. She was wearing a yellow and white striped off-the-shoulder sweater with light-washed jean shorts with white Converse. She was chatting with a taller man when Changbin walked up to her. He poked her waist and laughed when she jumped. She looked to where the assailant was and smiled widely. "Changbin! Haewon!" Changbin smiled. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Likewise," Haewon smiled back. "I guess that makes us the same age." "I guess that does," Changbin said as he rested his arm on Haewon's shoulder. "I take it you two are close?" The man who was talking to Haewon chimed in. "He makes 3 people I know, you know," Haewon chuckled. "You're a social butterfly, Haewon," laughed. "I'll show you guys where the drink bar is." Changbin and Haewon followed Yunho through the big room. Changbin took this moment to take in the decorations. "They really went all out for this party, didn't they?" he thought out loud. "They really did," Haewon commented. "At first I wasn't sure if I wanted to be here, but seeing you here makes me feel a lot better." Changbin smiled at the statement. "I'm glad to be here," he said as Yunho handed the two a couple of shot glasses. "To having fun," Haewon said as she and Changbin tapped their glasses together and downed their shots. Changbin and Haewon walked around the room for the next several minutes. Changbin chatted with several people while Haewon let him lead the conversations. She would watch Changbin have fun talking, and she could not help but smile. She was having fun watching Changbin have fun. Haewon was snapped out of her thoughts when Sujin ran up to her and grabbed her arm. "Hey! How are you?" she half yelled with a smile. "I'm great, Sujin," Haewon chuckled. "Awesome! There's karaoke going on over there. We can sing together like we did in college." Sujin smiled as she pulled Haewon's arm. Haewon looked at Changbin with slight panic, in which Changbin only laughed. "Go, I'll catch up," he smiled at her. Haewon smiled back as she let Sujin drag her to the karaoke section of the room. Sujin cheered as she hugged Haewon. "So, is that the guy from the bowling alley?" Sujin asked with a smirk. "How do you remember that?" Haewon nervously chuckled as she grabbed a songbook. "How could I forget those muscles?" Sujin smirked. "I bet he gives great hugs." "Sujin, please," Haewon bluntly replied. "And for the record, he does." Sujin laughed. "Progress!" "No," Haewon protested. "He's still with his girlfriend as far as I know." "It'll happen when it happens. But for tonight, we have fun." Sujin smiled as she wrapped an arm around Haewon. "Let's sing this song. That'll get the place going." "Sounds good to me," Haewon said as Sujin grabbed a couple of microphones and handed one to Haewon. "Although I am not an ISTJ." Sujin laughed at the comment right before the song started. Sujin started the first verse of the song. People around them seemed to recognize the song and gathered around the two. Haewon took over for the second section of the first verse. She seemed shy at first, but watching Sujin dance and have fun made her want to have fun too. In a few short moments, Sujin and Haewon started singing the chorus. The people around them started dancing along with the two women. The two continued to have fun while singing. Some people even joined in to do some of the rap parts. Haewon took most of the bridge. As she sang, she looked through the crowd and saw Changbin smiling at her. She smiled back as the final chorus started. The crowd around them was hyped up. The song ended and several people were inspired to sing more songs. Haewon laughed with Sujin as Changbin walked up to them. He pulled Haewon in a hug. "That was amazing! I didn't know you can sing like that," he smiled. "You didn't ask," Haewon chuckled. "Haewon is amazing," Sujin nodded proudly. "She can definitely get a crowd going." "Let's keep the energy up then," Changbin smirked as he patted Haewon's shoulder. He walked up to a group and decided on a song. She watched as Changbin and a few other guys sang the song Heartbeat. The guys sang without a care in the world, and they were having the time of their lives. Haewon laughed out loud as she watched Changbin sing the chorus and dance in a hilarious manner. He danced over to Haewon and she reciprocated the dance. It felt as though the two were in their own world, just having fun and being themselves. The crowd around them loved their energy and cheered them on. Sujin cheered loudly as Yunho walked up. "Are those two always like this?" he asked Sujin. Sujin smirked. "They look good together, don't they?" she asked as she saw Changbin get physically closer to Haewon. "Is Hae the girlfriend I've heard he's got?" Yunho asked. "They've got mad chemistry." "She's not the aforementioned girlfriend. Yet." Sujin smirked as she walked back into the crowd and danced as another group sang a different song. The night continued on with dancing, singing, and laughter. Several hours had passed and people mellowed out a little. Haewon broke free of the crowd, feeling drained. She looked back at the crowd and noticed Changbin approaching her. "You doing all right?" he asked calmly. "Yeah, social battery is just drained. Nothing out of the ordinary." Haewon smiled and shrugged. The gears in Changbin's mind began turning. He looked around and noticed things were slowing down, but not quite to a halt. Looking back at Haewon, he extended his hand out. "Let's get out of here then," he said with a smile. Haewon's eyes darted between Changbin's eyes and his hand. She slowly reached out to grab his hand and let him lead her out of the building. The cool night air hit both of them as they walked out the doors. Haewon looked up at the clear night sky and saw how bright the stars were. She looked back at Changbin and noticed he still had a grip on her hand. Changbin continued walking towards a seemingly specific destination while holding Haewon's hand. "It's a beautiful night," Haewon spoke her thoughts out loud. "That it is," Changbin replied. "I was thinking of going somewhere quiet. You looked really tired in there." Haewon smiled softly and instinctively squeezed Changbin's hand tighter. "Thank you," she muttered. After a few moments, Changbin took Haewon to an empty park and sat on one of the benches. They sat in silence for a few moments, but neither of them minded. A few seconds later, Changbin stretched and leaned back on the bench while making an obnoxious noise. Haewon let out a laugh from the noise. Changbin glanced at Haewon for a split second before laughing with her. "I appreciate you, Haewon," Changbin said as his laughter died down. "Why is that?" Haewon asked. Her full attention was on him. "Anytime I felt down, you somehow find your way to me, whether we somehow meet up or with the gifts you send. You're a good person, Haewon." Changbin answered with sincerity. "I'm just doing what I feel is right. You deserve the world, Changbin." Haewon replied with the same sincerity. Changbin felt the warmth in her words. He leaned forward and scooted closer to her. He took the time to take in Haewon's expression. Since when did she have freckles? He chuckled to himself as he leaned in closer. "You're beautiful, Haewon," he said, barely above a whisper. Haewon did not have time to react before Changbin closed the gap in a short but gentle kiss. He pulled back a little bit and smiled as he saw her pouting. Smiling, he leaned in to properly kiss her. Maybe she felt the sparks too. He pulled back for a second time and looked at her. She was looking back at him with an expression he had not seen in a long time. In the blink of an eye, her expression shifted to one of panic as her cheeks turned extremely red, almost as if she realized the reality of the situation. Changbin quickly realized what he had done, but before he even got to explain, Haewon got up and refused to look at him. "I'm sorry," she said, sadness lacing her voice. "No, I'm sorry," Changbin replied. The realization sunk in hard. "Let me take you home. It's the least I can do." Haewon nodded her head as she stood up. She looked at Changbin with a sad smile and said, "Thank you." The two walked in silence. Both Changbin and Haewon felt how thick the tension was. The events of the night were weighing heavy on both of their minds as they prepared to face the aftermath of what had happened between them. Ooh boy. So Changbin and Haewon kissed. But Changbin is still technically with Nari. So that's a problem. But we have 8, 9, 10. We have like 4 chapters left. And it is break time. So we are going to take our break. We're going to get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, grab a snack, do whatever it is you need to do, and we'll be right back.
Discovery Houston, press to ATO.
Liftoff of mission 41D, the first flight of the Ever Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Discovery, go and throttle up.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Alrighty, we are back. Let's get back to it. Welcome back. Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. Alright, so, a brief recap of the story up to this point, because the last chapter was a pretty important one. We are introduced to Changbin and Nari, who are, together. But we see the cracks in Changbin and Nari's relationship, and then Changbin meets Haewon, and then they get along, and there's, it all leads up to Changbin and Haewon kissing, but then Changbin is still technically with Nari, so there's that there. That's kind of where we're at, as a brief TLDR. So, then we have Chapter 8, Heart to Heart. Changbin arrived back at his apartment around 2 a.m. His thoughts were all over the place as he thought back to his actions. He walked in his living room like a zombie. The bouquet of flowers seemed to glow as it sat on the kitchen counter. He found himself gravitating towards the flowers. Even when the door to the bedroom opened, his gaze never left the flowers. "Why didn't you check your phone?" Changbin slowly turned his head to look at Nari. He scoffed and shook his head. "That's really the first thing you say to me?" he muttered. "Yes, it is. I've been worried sick all night," Nari argued. "I was fine. If something was wrong, I would have said something," Changbin tiredly replied. "I don't trust it," Nari spat and crossed her arms. "Babe, we've been together for almost 3 years. Why can't you tell me what's going on?" she asked. "Let me get this straight." Changbin fully turned his body to face Nari. "You want me to fully trust you and tell you every little detail of everything I do, while at the same time you refuse to trust me?" "I do trust you. If you trusted me, you wouldn't demand half the shit you demand from me." Nari recoiled as Changbin raised his voice. "Like what?" she challenged. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. "Like what?" she challenged. You're demanding that I tell you every detail when I'm out without you. You demand my attention when all I do is talk to someone. You've demanded to see my phone when there's absolutely nothing on it for you to worry about. That resulted in my phone getting smashed. Changbin carefully listed his examples without raising his voice further. You wouldn't hand it over. That's why your phone broke. Changbin laughed loudly. Wow. You completely missed the entire point, he said while shaking his head. Whatever. I'm going to bed. Join me if you want. I don't care. Nari stared at him as he walked right past her into his bedroom. After Changbin entered the bedroom, he closed the door with a fair bit of force. He released a sigh as he started undressing to put his pajamas on. As he crawled under the covers, he received a text message. He smiled sadly, seeing who it was from. Good night, Changbin. Huh. I don't think it was a good night. I don't think it was. The door to the ice cream shop opened with a bell ring. Changbin looked up from his spot at the table to see Chan walk in. He waved over and motioned for him to sit. He slid one of the milkshakes his way without much of a greeting. Changbin wanted to talk to Chan, and this was the easiest way to talk to him alone. Chan knew most of what was going on. He was kept in a loop from Changbin and some of their other friends. With Changbin wanting a heart-to-heart with Chan, something serious had to happen. So, what's going on, Bin? Chan asked calmly, giving Changbin his full attention. Changbin took a deep breath before speaking his thoughts. And with a heavy sigh and letting his head fall on the table, he spoke what he had been holding in all day. I kissed Haewon last night. That's great. No. Changbin sighed again. He lifted his head and rested his chin on the table. I like Haewon. I really like her. I feel conflicted because I'm still with Nari, he said while avoiding eye contact. Chan thought to himself for a moment. Can you describe Nari for me? He simply asked. Changbin looked confused, but complied. Nari is pretty. She's very assertive and gets things done, but she seems very insecure and tends to project a lot. Her boldness was what made me like her in the first place, but in those 2 years, she's become an insecure mess. Chan's expression changed briefly at the last few words chosen. He took in all the words used to describe Nari. There were some good words, but the tone that Changbin said them in was the key. Now, describe Haewon, Chan said as he carefully watched Changbin. I haven't known her for very long, but Haewon is like a breath of fresh air. She's funny, smart, and has a very comfortable energy. I've noticed she tends to keep to herself sometimes. She understands me without trying too hard. She's like a sunflower, Changbin described. The smile did not even try to hide itself. Chen smiled as he leaned back in his chair. I think you've got your solution. It's not that easy, Changbin groaned. Why not? It's not like you officially live together, Chan replied. If you're thinking about our performance this Friday, don't worry about it. I'm not saying you need to do it now, but you shouldn't wait too long either. We don't know what Haewon herself is thinking right now. Changbin appeared to relax. I want to at least get through the week. Haewon will probably give me some space. I saw the way she looked last night and I hated it. I'm sure she'll be alright, Chan said, grabbing his milkshake. The door opened and Chan and Changbin looked at who walked in. Who walked in? Who was it? Who was it? I want to know. I mean, of course I know. I'm the one who wrote this thing. All right. What's going on with you, Jun Haewon? Haewon looked up from her spot on the couch. Her front door opened abruptly, revealing Yoo-hyun with a bag of something. Yoo-hyun, what are you doing? Haewon asked tiredly. You said you didn't feel like ice cream. You never turned down ice cream, so I knew something was wrong, Yoo-hyun simply explained. She pulled out the item from the bag. I picked this up for you. Isn't it cute? Haewon looked at the item. It was a plush of a Pokemon. I'm impressed you remembered Heracross was my favorite, Haewon softly chuckled. Do you doubt your best friend? Yoo-hyun playfully scoffed before sitting on the couch next to Haewon. So, you gonna tell me what's going on? Haewon looked away from Yoo-hyun. She played with the plush while thinking about her response. You know Changbin, right? The guy you have a crush on, Yoo-hyun bluntly answered. Haewon was about to correct her, but stopped herself. She sighed in defeat. Yes, the guy I have a crush on. Yoo-hyun, I don't know what to do. Did something happen with Changbin? Did he hurt you? Do I have to kick his ass? Yoo-hyun stood up and started flexing. Haewon let out a small laugh. He didn't hurt me. Quite the opposite, actually. We kissed last night, she said, voice growing quieter. That's great, isn't it? Yoo-hyun sat back down and placed a hand on Haewon's shoulder. No, it's not, Haewon choked out. Tears were threatening to fall from her eyes. I'm just left more confused. I know he has a girlfriend, but I really like being with him. I feel like he likes me too, but I don't know the whole picture. As far as I know, he's still with his girlfriend, and I don't want to be the other woman. Yoo-hyun pulled Haewon into a hug and let her cry. Yoo-hyun could feel Haewon's heart breaking the moment she cried. No words were spoken between the two for several minutes. Haewon's sobs died down after a few moments, and Yoo-hyun pulled her away to look at her face. Haewon, you are an amazing person. I don't doubt for a second Changbin doesn't see that too. And you're right, we don't know the whole picture. So let's give it some time. Maybe he's having trouble processing everything just as much as you are, Yoo-hyun told Haewon as she wiped away a few stray tears. You're right, Haewon quietly said with a few sniffles. I know, Yoo-hyun chuckled, and you're still valid in feeling what you feel. I think some time will do you both good. Will do both of you good. Haewon nodded. She appeared to be thinking about something for a short moment. I would like some ice cream now. Yoo-hyun smiled brightly as she stood up and grabbed Haewon's hand. Say less, she cheered as the two got ready to leave. Haewon put little effort into her appearance. She threw on a baggy gray jacket over her tank top and shorts and left with Yoo-hyun to her favorite ice cream place. The two arrived at the ice cream shop. They were chatting about something random when they walked in the door. Haewon happened to look in a specific spot and found Changbin. He was sitting across from Chan, and he looked a little stressed. A look of concern quickly turned into a small smile as Haewon waved at him. He cracked a smile and waved in return. Yoo-hyun pulled her arm towards the counter to order their ice cream. After getting their orders, they walked to a table near Chan and Changbin. You guys want to sit with us? Chen called out to the two. Changbin and Haewon visibly panicked while Yoo-hyun smiled brightly. Sure, thank you, she said as she sat next to Chen, leaving Haewon to sit next to Changbin. What have you two wonderful ladies been up to? Chan asked to break the tension. Nothing too important, just getting some stuff done around my apartment, Haewon simply answered. Lies. You were laying on the couch when I showed up, Yihyun argued. I was taking a break. Haewon pouted in protest. A break from what? Procrastinating cleaning your apartment? Yihyun joked with a laugh. The joke caused Changbin to laugh. Haewon turned to Changbin and pouted. I don't suppose you've done anything more productive than me today, she challenged, and Changbin recoiled in surprise. I have done nothing and am proud of it. Changbin puffed his chest proudly, earning a laugh out of Haewon. The two began chatting about mundane things as Yihyun and Chan exchanged knowing looks. I think they'll be fine. They'll be fine, right? Sorry, I am blowing my nose like crazy. I am still slightly sick. So I'm sorry for the pauses every now and then. It's just me blowing my nose. Whew. No worries, thanks. We're good. Friday night quickly approached for Changbin and his friends. Mino, Jisung, and Hyunjin were already at the backstage room waiting to get ready for their performances. The four were chatting away when Jisung spoke up. Where's the makeup artist? Jisung asked. Shouldn't they be here by now? Don't be dumb, Jisung. We're here early. They could literally walk in the door at any minute, Mino replied as he pointed to the door. The moment he did, the door snapped open, revealing a frazzled Haewon carrying her trunk full of her supplies. And a bag of food. Sorry I'm late. Last appointment ran late and I needed food, she frantically said as she walked in the room. Even if you were an hour late, food comes first. Jisung nodded his head confidently as if he were some kind of sage. Haewon laughed as she set up all her makeup products. She grabbed the burger out of the bag and started taking a bite out of it. Who's first? She asked as she finished her bite. Jisung hopped up quickly and sat in the chair. He smirked triumphantly towards Changbin, who glared in retaliation. Haewon continued to multitask, eating her lunch and putting on Jisung's makeup. Her diligence impressed the four who were there. She finished Jisung's makeup and moved on to Mino's. After some time, all 8 men were in the room waiting to get their makeup done. Haewon made quick work of everyone's look, all while eating her lunch. Everyone's makeup was done, except for 2. Hyunjin and Changbin were the last 2 left, despite being some of the first ones there. Haewon looked at the 2 and motioned for Hyunjin. Hyunjin sat in the chair and smiled at Haewon. Now that things are a little settled down, how are you? He asked. A lot less hungry than when I first walked in here, Haewon joked as she reached in the bag for a couple of french fries. Both men laughed at the joke. Changbin pulled up a chair close to the 2. Never have I seen any kind of makeup artist eat while putting makeup on their clients, Changbin commented as he watched Haewon apply eyeshadow on Hyunjin. It's not the first time it's happened. Probably won't be the last either, Haewon replied. She grabbed Hyunjin's chin and moved his head to where she wanted it. Is it dedication or stupidity? Both, probably. You're amazing at your craft, though, Changbin said. You've been doing this for 5 years. Haewon seemed shocked. I'm impressed you know that, she sincerely replied. You said you started right out of high school. Plus you told me your interest in it started at 12. I wouldn't forget little facts like that about you, Changbin said. Hyunjin looked at Changbin with a look of amazement. He then looked at Haewon, who seemed impressed by Changbin's memory. He kept glancing between the 2 and smiled to himself. Haewon noticed and gave him a questioning look. "What are you smiling about?" she asked as she grabbed a spray and sprayed his face. "It's nothing. Now that I'm done, I'll leave you two alone." Hyunjin smiled mischievously as he left the room. "Well, that was a bit rude," Haewon pouted. "I barely finished his face before he just runs off." "I can go kick his ass for you," Changbin casually offered as he flexed his muscles. "I can easily take him out. Just say the word." Haewon giggled at the action. "Nobody needs beaten up. Yet," she said as she started working on Changbin. "Keyword yet," Changbin smirked. "For real, just say the word on anybody, and I'll go beat them up for you." "I appreciate that, Changbin." Haewon laughed as she started applying eyeshadow. "And while I can't beat anybody up, I can still help you with things too." "I know you would," Changbin smiled. He preemptively looked up so Haewon was ready to start the next step. "Changbin," Haewon softly called. "Don't worry about a thing, alright?" Changbin smiled as Haewon finished up on the eyeshadow. Haewon hummed in response and finished up on the makeup look. She grabbed a spray and sprayed his face generously. She set the bottle down and looked over the makeup. Deciding the look was finished, she stepped away and started putting things away. Changbin stood up from the chair and walked up to Haewon. "Changbin, I can't." Haewon stepped back a little, but Changbin gently placed his hand on her shoulder. "We'll be okay, I promise," Changbin calmly told her. "You know we have a lot to talk about," Haewon replied as she looked Changbin in the eyes. "I know, and we'll talk about it soon." Changbin smiled as he leaned in and placed a soft kiss on her cheek. Haewon watched Changbin walk away. She was left alone with her mind running like mad. Maybe there was hope after all. Maybe. Maybe there is hope, maybe not. Who knows? Sorry about that. I got up to go like spray my nose because I religiously use nasal spray. And I bumped my watch against the door to my bedroom and I scratched it. And I'm really sad now. I'm really sad. My watch has a scratch on it now. I've had this thing for 2 years, 3 years maybe. It's not like a big ol' scratch, but it's just enough. It's kind of like off center, so I don't think, unless I'm going like left or right, I can't really feel it. I know how that feels with other things. Yeah, I've bumped that like corner and edge so many times and no scratches. Maybe I just bumped that same spot enough. Maybe I just did it enough to where it's like, haha, lol, we're scratched now. I just wish my nose wouldn't be so stuffed. But it's fine. Chapter 9. Rose-colored glasses. People crowded in the seats in front of the stage. They were waiting for the performance to start. Haewon quickly made her way to the stage after cleaning up and retouching her own makeup. She walked through the crowd, finding a spot to sit. As she was walking, a group of girls turned to look at her. Brief eye contact was made between Haewon and Nari. Haewon's expression remained the same while Nari's twinged into a small glare. Nari turned back to her friends and Haewon kept walking to find a seat. Haewon took mental notes on Nari's appearance. Nari was wearing a loose black crop top with a black leather high-waisted skirt paired with black boots. She looked dressed up for the occasion. Haewon glanced at her own outfit, which was a long-sleeve graphic tee and dark-washed jean shorts paired with white Converse. I scratched mine like the first day I went to work with it. Did you really? I didn't even know. It's just I've bumped that corner so many times and no scratch. And then like the one time I'm like, I'm fine, it's a scratch. The crowd quickly gathered towards the stage as the lights dimmed. As much as Haewon did everyone's makeup in the past, she's never seen the actual performances. Sorry, no one wants to hear, like, sick noises. Let's see. Haewon was looking at the stage lights she felt herself being bumped into. She turned to look at who it was and found Nari. She quickly waved as a sign of acknowledgement and turned back towards the stage, but not without hearing a scoff from behind her. Music started playing, and the men started performing. Haewon watched in awe as the men she grew to know performed flawlessly. Her eyes finally landed on Changbin. He was oozing confidence with his raps. She smiled, watching him in his element. The performance was smooth sailing. The crowd cheered loudly, Haewon included. Before anyone knew it, the show ended. While everyone was making their way back in the hall, the 8 men were walking through the halls with them and waving to everyone. They all felt like a big deal. Cheers for everyone erupted at different levels. When Changbin walked by, hardly anyone cheered. Haewon took notice as she and Nari and her friends were behind her, being completely silent. Changbin waved at everyone, but the heartbreak was evident on his face. Haewon felt her heart sink. She then made it her mission to get to him as quickly as possible. After a few minutes, she made her way backstage to where she was before the show. She walked in the room and greeted everyone. She scanned the room and found Changbin. 2 steps into the room and a powerful presence pushed past her. "Babe, you did great!" Nari squealed as she hugged Changbin. Changbin chuckled as he hugged her back. "Thanks, Nari," he replied, sounding a bit nervous. "Get a room, you two," Chan joked as he tossed a random jacket at him. "You're not my mom," Changbin joked back as he grabbed the jacket and threw it back. Chan laughed as he threw it back and the two started play fighting. Haewon stood aside and laughed with everyone else in the room. Except for one. "Babe, quit acting like a child." Nari pulled Changbin's arm and scolded him. "What, am I not allowed to have fun?" Changbin mildly snapped. "Not when you're acting like children," Nari kept scolding. "You're not my mother either," Changbin actually snapped. Changbin and Nari began arguing and everyone else tuned it out. Haewon watched them argue and sighed. She looked around the room in hopes to not feel awkward. Her hopes were answered when Hyunjin walked up to her. "Did you enjoy the show?" Hyunjin asked as he leaned on the wall next to Haewon. "I did. You guys were amazing out there." Hyunjin smiled back. "Be honest, who was the best out there?" he asked with a smirk. "You all were amazing. It'd be hard to pick who the best was." Haewon replied as her eyes drifted to Changbin. Hyunjin followed her gaze and smiled. "It's okay. I already know your answer," he chuckled. Haewon laughed while desperately trying to hide her blush. She turned back to Hyunjin and playfully pushed his arm. I've been told I was easy to read, but that just takes the cake, she chuckled. Speaking of, we're all gonna go out to celebrate. You can come with us if you want, Hyunjin offered. Haewon looked around the room. Changbin and Nari were still bickering. I don't know. I might pass on this one. Hyunjin placed a hand on Haewon's shoulders. You're more than welcome in my book. You're our friend. You sure it's not because I make you look good? Haewon immediately said, which caused Hyunjin to crack up laughing. Hyunjin's laugh garnered the attention of Changbin and Nari. Nari was fuming while Changbin went quiet. Who does that bitch think she is? Nari muttered as she tried walking towards them. Changbin kept quiet and kept Nari close to him. He gave her a stern look to keep her from going to Hyunjin and Haewon. He kept all of his thoughts to himself. Just a little longer. Yeah, don't mind me. I've just got a pile of baby wipes, because that's what I've been using to blow my nose. Yeah, just a pile of baby wipes. You know, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, I usually use paper towels to blow my nose, but baby wipes are just convenient right here, and we have them, so might as well use them. Changbin was lost in his thoughts as he and Nari watched TV. His mind kept replaying the events from the previous night. The performance went well, but he left the venue with a bitter taste. He kept trying to pinpoint why, but his thoughts were interrupted by Nari cuddling up to him. She smiled as she cuddled closer and leaned in for a kiss. Changbin gently pushed her away in response. Babe, what's wrong? She asked. Changbin did not answer. He shifted his body to turn away from Nari. He tried finding the words, but nothing came out yet. Bin, you're worrying me. What's going on? Nari asked, attempting to scoot closer, but Changbin kept pushing her away. There's a lot we need to talk about, Changbin simply answered without looking at Nari. What do you mean? We're fine, Nari protested. No, Nari, we are not fine, Changbin stated as he turned his head to face her. These last several months have been hell on earth. Nari's expression went from concern to shock and offense. Hell? Hell? What are you talking about? She snapped. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Changbin replied. Anytime I say anything close to criticism, you snap at me just like that. I've done nothing wrong. Why are you saying things that are completely untrue? Nari defended herself. Completely untrue? Then why break my phone last month? Why scold me for doing my job? Why do you treat everyone else better than me? Changbin unloaded his feelings little by little. Your phone broke because you wouldn't let me see it, which means you're hiding something. You're always busy and don't have enough time for me. As for the last thing, I have no idea what you're on about. Nari continued, standing up while feeling frustrated. Changbin stood up and looked her straight in the eyes, then explained why you've been so touchy with Hyunjin. Explain why you're always with Hyunjin even when we're together somewhere. Explain why you give Hyunjin attention at the drop of a hat. And explain why you threw Hyunjin an extravagant party for his birthday and couldn't give me the time of day on mine. He ended his statements with raising his voice slightly after each one. Hyunjin has nothing to do with this. Hyunjin has everything to do with this. Nari stopped in her tracks. Changbin has never snapped at her to this degree before. She fought with her own thoughts, desperately thinking of what to say to defend herself. After several moments of silence, Changbin turned to walk to the bedroom. He opened the door and stood by it. Your silence pretty much confirms all my theories. The writing has been on the wall for months. We're done. Changbin calmly said. Changbin, don't do this, Nari said with a shaky voice. Why are you yelling at me about Hyunjin when you've been off fucking Haewon for who knows how long? Keep her name out of your damn mouth, Changbin gritted his teeth. She had nothing to do with this. Everything I said has been all you. I am tired of being treated like I'm nothing to you. So you need to get all of your things and go back to your own home. If you don't, I'll do it for you, and you won't like it if I do it. Nadi felt the tears welling up, but kept her words to herself. She stormed into the bedroom and creating a mess finding her belongings. Changbin sighed at the childish behavior, but he got what he wanted. Nadi moved on to the bedroom to the kitchen, packing everything she could while making a mess. She reached for the vase of older yellow roses and sunflowers, but Changbin grabbed her wrist to stop her. Touch that and you'll regret it, he said with a deep voice. Nadi glared in return. She relaxed her arm for a moment, and as soon as Changbin let go, she batted the vase and knocked it over. She finished packing her bag and put shoes on. With one last look at Changbin, she spat, "Fuck you, so Changbin." Slam. Changbin stared at the door for a few moments before releasing a sigh. That went about as well as you'd expect, he thought out loud. He pulled out his phone and dialed the owner of the apartments. He simply asked to change the passcode for his apartment. Nadi's meltdown made him nervous for future encounters. He walked to the spot where the flowers were on the floor. Most of them were not in good shape, but there was at least one rose and one sunflower that looked somewhat fresh. He grabbed those two flowers and found a cup to place them in. He was staring at the rose and sunflower. His phone started ringing. Without looking at who was calling, he answered the phone. Hey, that good? You know it, Chan. Changbin nervously chuckled. I guess word spreads fast? Hyunjin told me, Changbin stated. Changbin let out a scoff. Of course he would be the first to know. Would it make you feel better to know what he said about her? Chan offered. If it's not an insult, I don't want to hear it. Changbin bitterly chuckled as he sat down on his couch. Hyunjin said, and I quote, "This psychotic bitch got broken up with and I wish she would stop yelling at me," Chan said while doing a mild imitation of Hyunjin's voice. Changbin let out a laugh at the words and imitation. Honestly, psychotic bitch is an understatement, he said as he looked at the mess Nadi left in his home. I essentially got the fabricated summary from Hyunjin, so would you care to tell me what really happened? Chan asked. What were you told? Changbin asked, putting his phone on speaker and working to clean up the mess. I was told you got in her face and yelled at her to leave completely unprompted. I was also told that you were throwing things around and making a mess, Chan answered. Without you saying anything, I already know those are blatant lies. She really has no shame, does she? We were talking to each other perfectly fine, and when I told her to get her stuff and leave, that's when she flew off the handle. Even broke a vase, Changbin explained. If this has taught me anything, I should have seen the red flags sooner. Red flags look like flags with rose-colored glasses. Better late than never, Chan said with a soft chuckle. If anything ever happens with Nadi, we'll help you take care of it. Honestly, I think Hyunjin would be the first to help you. If he called her a psychotic bitch, then he would lead the charge, Changbin laughed. Definitely. Actually, how about we all come over? It'll be like the good old days, Chan said. By the sound of it, he was smiling. Changbin cracked a smile. That sounds nice. The phone call ended shortly after. Not long after that, all of his friends showed up at his apartment. Changbin smiled seeing everyone and having them help clean up the place. A huge weight was lifted. Whew. You know, sometimes breakups are like a huge weight lifted, or it's like a huge weight just got added to you. But by the sounds of that, it sounds like, you know, the weight was lifted. So, Okay. Haewon sat down on her couch, game controller in hand, and started playing Pokemon. Nothing in particular happened in her day, so she spent her Saturday relaxing at home. A distraction was needed after the way Friday night ended. She engrossed herself in the game for a while. As she was playing, her phone started vibrating. She did not want to check her phone, but something told her to. Picking up her phone, she looked at who texted her, and was surprised to see who texted. She was even more surprised at what the message said. So, I'm single now. Haewon double-checked and made sure the message was from Changbin. She hesitated on responding right away. Eventually, she bit the bullet and responded to the message. How are you doing? That was an okay message to send, right? It was not too over the top, not too nonchalant, not too eager, right? Haewon redirected her focus back to the game for a few short moments before getting a response. Surprisingly, I'm alright. Haewon seemed surprised by the answer. She was not expecting much of anything. Her mind went blank when her phone vibrated in her hand. It was a phone call. On instinct, she answered it. Hey, Changbin, she nervously said, putting the phone on speaker. Hey, Changbin's voice echoed through the phone speaker. There was a small, awkward moment of silence before Haewon spoke up. You doing alright? Changbin laughed. Yeah, I'm doing alright. You'd think ending an almost 3-year relationship would be harder on me, but actually, it lifted a huge weight off me. Breakups can be easy or they can be difficult. I'm glad you're alright, Haewon said as she continued playing her game. Other than that, how's your night going? It's going great. The guys came over a while ago and we hung out for a bit. They went home not too long ago, Changbin replied. What have you been up to? I've done nothing with my day and I'm playing Pokemon right now, Haewon answered. You play Pokemon? Changbin seemed surprised. What's your favorite Pokemon? Haewon chuckled at how enthusiastic he sounded. She glanced at her Heracross plush next to her on the couch and answered Changbin. The two continued chatting throughout the night. Maybe there was something to this, and Changbin and Haewon felt nervously excited. Ooh. Ooh. So they broke up. They broke up. It was the big breakup. Now this is the longest chapter. Because I looked at the word count. And this is the longest chapter. It's almost 3,000 words. Almost. Chapter 10, The Date. Let me grab a drink real quick. The sun shined bright throughout the town on a Thursday morning. Yuhyun and Haewon walked through the busy town and stopped in a cafe. The two were chatting about anything and everything. Their thoughts were interrupted when they noticed where exactly they were and who was behind the counter. Yuhyun immediately glared while Haewon showed an awkward smile. Nani looked extremely tired with dark circles painting her eyes. What can I get you two? She asked, sounding somewhat bitter. I'll take an iced coffee, Yuhyun said, holding her glare. Hot chocolate for me, Haewon politely said. Yuhyun looked at Haewon. Hot chocolate? Really? Summer literally starts in 2 weeks, she deadpanned. People drink hot coffee even in the summertime. I see nothing wrong with my choice, Haewon simply replied as she used her card to pay for the drinks. Your order will be ready shortly, Nadi stated as she turned to make the drinks. Yuhyun and Haewon walked away to sit at the table. She looks like a zombie, she commented. I don't know much about anything. I just know her and Changbin broke up 3 weeks ago. Haewon simply answered. Yuhyun simply hummed in response as Nadi walked up to them with their drinks. She walked away as quickly as she showed up. Yuhyun turned back to Haewon and made a simple statement. She hates your guts. Haewon looked at Yuhyun with a look of surprise. She doesn't even know me. We've had a couple of run-ins, but that's really it, she replied. Look at it this way. In her eyes, her relationship was perfectly fine until you and Changbin met. If she were to funnel her frustrations towards someone, that would be you, Yuhyun explained. I guess you're right. I don't know her side, so if she wants to be mad, she can be mad, Haewon said as she sipped on her hot chocolate. You're better than me, Yuhyun chuckled. If it were me, I would be raising hell with her. Raising hell does nothing for anybody in this situation, Haewon simply replied. The conversation came to a halt with her when her phone vibrated. It was a message from Changbin. Are you doing anything this Saturday? I want to take you out on a proper date. Haewon stared at the message wide-eyed while Yuhyun started squealing. Ooh. Date night, date night, date night. Exciting! The exciting part. Saturday at 1:30 p.m., Changbin waited at the hospital parking lot near Haewon's apartment. He was dressed in a salmon pink button-up shirt with the buttons open and sleeves rolled up. He wore a white shirt underneath and dark wash jeans. Feelings of nervousness crept within him the entirety of the morning. Is he too dressed up? Is he not dressed up at all? Will everything go according to plan? Will it derail quickly? Will she even show up in the first place? Was 3 weeks enough time? Thoughts kept racing in Changbin's mind. He was never this anxious before. Maybe things will be different. Changbin? The familiar voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned towards the direction of the voice and his mind went blank. Haewon stood confidently with a smile. She was wearing a white flowy sundress with a sunflower pattern that went to her knees, complemented by a pair of white sandals. Her hair was lightly curled, and her makeup was a soft look with neutral eyeshadow and coral lipstick. Hello? Changbin? Haewon tilted her head, waiting on Changbin to respond. Changbin cleared his throat and shook himself out of his daze. Sorry, Haewon, you just look gorgeous, he complimented. Thank you, Haewon smiled. And you're looking handsome yourself. Changbin looked away sheepishly. Again, I keep using that word and it's so hard to say. I need to stop it. I need to just cut it out of my vocabulary completely. He quickly composed himself and motioned to his car. Shall we get going then? He asked. Haewon nodded and followed Changbin to his car. He opened the door for her and helped her get in. Changbin drove off to the destination he had planned. The two chatted casually on the way. Everything felt relaxed in nature, despite the two feeling incredibly nervous. The first stop was an arcade. Changbin parked the car and ran around to open the passenger door. Haewon smiled at the gesture. She looked around in awe. Why the arcade? She asked. I learned a few weeks ago that you like to play games. I felt an arcade was the right call. Was it? Changbin replied as he held out his hand. Haewon took his hand with a smile. Absolutely. Changbin smiled back as he led Haewon into the arcade. Changbin paid for many tokens to play many games. He gently tossed the bag, showing how hefty it was, and smiled at Haewon. What shall I kick your butt at first? He smirked. Haewon chuckled at the confidence. Who said you were going to kick my butt? She mirrored the confidence as she walked away to one of the arcade machines. Changbin chuckled as he followed Haewon to one of the shooter games. She put in the tokens and motioned for Changbin to play along. The two played the game and competed with one another. Haewon ended up getting a higher score. She cheered when the game ended and Changbin did not hold back a smile. Alright, you win this one, but let's see how you do with the others, Changbin said with a smirk. Haewon mirrored the smirk as she let Changbin pick the next game. Time flew by in the arcade for the both of them. They ended up winning the same amount of games, and they also had the same amount of tickets for prizes. Haewon exchanged her tickets for a cute pink pig plush. Changbin exchanged his for a teddy bear holding a sunflower. Haewon handed the pig plush to Changbin with a smile, and Changbin handed the teddy bear to Haewon. The two smiled widely upon the exchange. They left the arcade with huge smiles. As they got back to Changbin's car, he placed the plushes in the back seat and drove off to the next destination. Changbin pulled up to an aquarium. Haewon seemed surprised, but went with it. She was just happy to spend the day with Changbin. A friend of mine gave me free passes a while back, but I've never had a chance to use them. Changbin explained as he helped Haewon out of the car. Haewon quickly pieced together the undertone of the statement and reached out to hold his hand. With a comforting squeeze, she let Changbin lead the way. They got checked in and started walking through the building. Changbin watched how Haewon looked at everything with awe. "Changbin, you're finally here!" Changbin and Haewon turned towards the direction of a voice. Changbin immediately recognized the woman walking up to them. "Chaelyung, I am finally here," he smiled. Chaelyung smiled widely and turned her attention to Haewon. She seemed a bit wary at first, but politely bowed. She looked at Changbin. "So you and?" She warily started her question. "Yes, and I would like for you not to say anything," Changbin nudged Chaelyung. Chaelyung playfully nudged him back and the two began bickering. Haewon observed the two carefully and started giggling. She tapped on Chaelyung's shoulder. "Chaelyung, right?" she asked. "My name's Haewon. I take it you're the one who gave Changbin the passes?" Chaelyung stopped in her tracks. "Yes, I am, and I'm glad he's getting to use them. I guess I shouldn't keep you. Enjoy your date," she smiled. She quickly leaned in close to Changbin. "I like her already. I want to see you two in here more often," she shouted to Changbin. Changbin laughed as he gently pushed Chaelyung off of him. "Don't worry, I'll bring her here more often and we need to catch up," he said as he grabbed Haewon's hand and walked away. "Who is she?" Haewon asked curiously. "That's Chaelyung. She's a good friend of mine. We haven't talked much in the last couple of years," Changbin answered. "If she's a good friend, you should fix that," Haewon nodded as she squeezed his hands. "We can hash that out later. For now, you can show me around?" "Of course," Changbin smiled. He looked at Haewon carefully and noticed something. "Your lip color. Looks good on you." Haewon smiled shyly. "Well, it was the one you picked out." Changbin seemed confused until he remembered his gift to her for the flowers. His confusion turned into confidence. "I guess I have good taste then," he smirked while striking a confident pose. Haewon laughed wholeheartedly. "You absolutely do. Thank you again for the gift." "If anything, I need to thank you," Changbin said as they were walking through a tunnel. "You've been looking out for me since we first met. One simple gift is the least I can do." Haewon smiled as she tucked her hair behind her ear. "You're an amazing person. I knew that when we first met. And did your makeup. I guess you can say my intuition told me you needed someone," she calmly said as she looked at the various fish swimming around. Changbin smiled to himself as he let go of Chaewon's hand and wrapped his arm around her shoulder. "Well, here we are now. Let's make the most of today," he said as he kissed her head. Haewon smiled as her cheeks were painted pink. The two continued on the walk through the aquarium. Changbin kept his arm around Haewon as they walked. Everything felt natural to them. The two were chatting, laughing, and overall having fun. After the aquarium, Changbin took Haewon to a karaoke room. They sang many songs together and danced their hearts out. They sang for hours while enjoying one another's company. Unfortunately, the end of the day quickly approached as Changbin drove to Haewon's apartment. He walked her up to the door, feeling somewhat sad. Haewon noticed his demeanor and gently touched his arm. "What's on your mind, Changbin?" she asked softly. Changbin hesitated a little before speaking his mind. What if today didn't have to end? He asked. Haywon tilted her head, urging him to continue. We could go back to my place and spend some more time together. Haywon seemed surprised at the statement. You want to spend more time with me? Of course. I like you too much to want to leave you for the night, Changbin answered. Haewon smiled and blushed uncontrollably. Well, I can put together a bag for the night, she replied as she unlocked the door. Need help with anything? Changbin asked as the door opened and he followed Haewon inside. I think I got it. Just hang out in here while I pack a bag. Haewon smiled as she turned to walk down the hall, dress flowing as she turned. Changbin chuckled as he watched her disappear down the hall. He looked around the living room and took in the vibe. The apartment felt cozy and warm. He noticed the Heracross plush sitting at the corner of the couch. He picked it up and played with it a bit while waiting. What are you doing? Changbin jumped and tossed the plush in the air. Haewon laughed as she caught the plush and gave it a squeeze. Changbin clutched at his chest and pouted. Don't sneak up on me like that. Haewon laughed as she placed the plush back on the couch. Payback for that day at the mall, she smirked as she poked Changbin's arm. Just be lucky you tossed my buddy and nothing else. Buddy? Changbin chuckled. A gift from my friend. It's one of my favorites, Haewon smiled. Anyway, shall we get going? Changbin smiled and grabbed her hand. They left Haewon's apartment and made way towards Changbin's. The drive was like any other during the day. The closer they got to Changbin's apartment, the more nervous both of them became. He parked the car and carried her bag for her to his apartment. Several minutes go by and the tension is very thick. Changbin unlocked his door and let Haewon walk in. Don't mind the mess. I didn't think to clean anything. Changbin nervously chuckled as he closed the door behind himself. I don't mind. Haewon laughed. I've seen worse. You're in the clear. For now. For now? Changbin playfully protested. He walked further into the apartment and headed towards his room to set Haewon's bag down on his bed. He walked back out and saw her looking at the small vase with half a wilted rose and sunflower. Give me 1 second. I think it's too late. Anyway. Yeah, it's a little too late. I didn't get a notification to snooze, so I know important stuff's gonna come up and ads are going on right now, so bear with me for a second. For now, Changbin playfully protested as he walked further into the apartment and headed towards his room to set Haewon's back down on his bed. He walked back out and saw her looking at the small vase with a half-wilted rose and sunflower. My mouse disappeared. That's not good. For now, you don't have to keep these, Haewon said as she gently touched the sunflower. I wanted to, though, Changbin replied as he leaned on the counter. They're wilting, Haewon simply stated as she looked at Changbin. They may be wilting, but it serves as a reminder that I had some amazing people in my life that knew I needed a pick-me-up. Changbin smiled as he looked right at Haewon. To be loved is to be known, Haewon smiled as she looked at the flowers. I didn't know if you would take to flowers very well, but I wanted to send something that said to stay positive, hence the sunflowers. And yellow roses are a sign of friendship since I thought we were good friends at that point. I loved the flowers, Changbin replied, also looking at the flowers. And these two were the only ones left after the vase broke. Haewon snapped to look at Changbin. Broke? She questioned. Changbin thought about his answer carefully. When I broke up with Nadi, she made a mess of a lot of things in my home. The vase of flowers was one of them. I tried salvaging what I could. Sadly, it was just one rose and one sunflower, he explained. His nerves were getting to him before Haewon reached over and grabbed his hand. Flowers will wilt with time, but the meaning behind them will live on forever, she smiled. So let's not worry about something sad, and let's focus on creating new memories. Changbin was overwhelmed with a specific feeling. Without warning, he leaned in and kissed her. The kiss expressed all that he wanted to say and more. He pulled away and looked over Haewon's expression. He smiled as he playfully touched her cheek and stepped away. You can go ahead and get into comfy clothes in my room. He tried playing it cool, but somehow failed when Haewon started laughing. He took her to his room and quickly grabbed his own clothes before leaving the bedroom, closing the door. Haewon felt really nervous being in Changbin's bedroom. She looked around and decided to carefully snoop. Curiosity could be a dangerous thing, just not in this moment. She looked through the drawers and found various pieces of clothing. One of the drawers she opened was filled with boxers. She was thrown off by the light blue pair sitting on top. She thought the fish pattern was cute and closed the drawer. Quickly opening another drawer, she found the t-shirts. She grabbed the black one and went to grab her shorts from her bag and changed. She grabbed her makeup wipes and left the bedroom and made her way to the bathroom. She removed her makeup and left the bathroom. She walked out of the living room and saw Changbin waiting for her on the couch. He was dressed in a black t-shirt and gray sweatpants. Maybe we didn't need to get your clothes if you're just gonna steal mine, Changbin laughed. Haewon sat down next to him on the couch, with him immediately wrapping an arm around her. It was on a whim. I could have pulled out those fish boxes of yours and questioned you about it, she said with a small nudge. Those were a gift from Jisung, Changbin defended himself as he turned on the TV. I have so many gifts from him laying around this place. Haewon laughed as she hugged him. I'm sure there'll be more from him. You've got good friends. I've also got you now, Changbin smiled as he kissed Haewon. He pulled back and smiled. He felt happy. Happier than he had in a long time. I don't know why my mouse disappeared. I honestly do not. Like, I cannot see it on anything right now. I have no idea what even happened. There it goes. I fixed it. I fixed my mouse problem. Hooray! Don't you hate it when that happens? And here we are, the final chapter. Chapter 11, Sunflower. Summer sunshine coated the skies in a warm glow. Ajumais? Not quite. It was not very ajunice of this mouse. Summer sunshine coated the skies in a warm glow. Many people were out and about, including Haewon. She walked through the streets looking for a specific ice cream shop. She walked in the building and noticed a person sitting by themselves. She walked up to the person and sat in the chair across from them. Hey, Hyunjin, she smiled. Hyunjin looked up from his phone and smiled upon seeing Haewon. Hey, how are you? He asked, setting his phone down. I'm doing good. How are you? Sorry I couldn't stick around for your performance yesterday. How did it go? Haewon asked. It went very well. You're a busy girl. I get why you didn't stay. Don't worry about it, Hyunjin answered. Bin-hyung treating you well? Haewon seemed surprised by the question. Of course he is, she smiled. Hyunjin smiled. He was about to continue the conversation, but they were interrupted by a loud group walking in. One person in particular caught their attention. They also walked up to the two of them. If it isn't Miss Boyfriend Stealer, Nadi glared at Haewon. Wait until Binny sees you with Hyunjin. And? Haewon blankly asked. Why are you concerned? You're not in the relationship with me. Or Changbin. Can you please leave us alone? Hyunjin, please talk some sense into her. Nadi looked over at Hyunjin and pleaded. What makes you think I'll defend you? Hyunjin snapped. You played me for a fool months ago. I'm not letting you do that again. Nadi showed a look of disgust. She whipped out her phone and started texting someone. You two will be sorry once you get to wind of this, she threatened. Who would you be messaging? Changbin challenged as he leaned back in his chair. Changbin, who else? Nadi said as she sent a text message. Your efforts will be in vain considering I blocked your number. Nadi whipped around and saw Changbin standing right behind her. Hyunjin started laughing out loud while Haewon released a sigh. She stood up and faced Nadi. Can you please leave? I don't think you'll like it if I have to contact the owner, she calmly stated. Nadi huffed as she turned and walked away with her friends. Changbin looked over at her and said, Orange hair is not a good look for you. Nadi stopped, huffed, and continued walking. Haewon released a sigh of relief. I didn't expect to run in with Nadi on my bingo card for today, she said. Don't worry, I didn't either. And what's with her hair? Is she subconsciously trying to copy you or something? Hyunjin replied as he looked at Haewon. I don't have ownership over orange hair, Haewon chuckled. It looks the best on you anyway. Changbin shrugged as he pulled a small bouquet of red roses and sunflowers and handed it to Haewon. Haewon smiled as she took the flowers. She looked back over at Hyunjin. Sorry about the lackluster interaction, but it's time for me to go. I'll see you tomorrow, she said as she walked with Changbin to order themselves milkshakes and leave the building. Ready for our beach trip? Changbin asked as he led Haewon to his car. Of course, Haewon smiled widely. I haven't been in a while, so this makes a perfect birthday gift. At least you're not making fun of me for not realizing your birthday was so soon, Changbin nervously chuckled. Didn't even realize it was a month before mine. July 11th. Fairly easy to remember, Haewon replied. And I never wanted anything big to begin with. This isn't big, it's just a small getaway, just for us. Changbin clarified with a proud smile. I think I know you well enough by now to know what you would prefer. Haewon blushed and looked away. We've only been together a month, she stated while nudging Changbin. Feels longer than that, Changbin replied as they got to his car. He opened the car door for Haewon. We were essentially dating before we were dating. Haewon chuckled as she sat in the car. Changbin joined shortly after behind the wheel and started the car. He reached out and grabbed Haewon's hands and held it for the entire drive. Happy birthday, Haewon, Changbin said as he squeezed her hand. Thank you, Changbin, Haewon replied as she squeezed his hand back. After a 20-minute drive, they arrived at the beach. Changbin put the car in park and immediately turned to Haewon. Can I tell you something? He asked. Haewon nodded and gave his hand a squeeze. I really don't know where I would be had I not met you. You're smart, funny, and you seem to know exactly what I need. We became friends in such a short time, and even during that time, my feelings grew. You've been there for me through some rough moments of mine. I really appreciate you and what you've done for me. He paused for a moment and looked into Haewon's eyes. Haewon, I love you. Haewon smiled softly. She leaned in and kissed him. I love you too, Changbin. Changbin smiled widely and quickly left the car. He grabbed everything out of the trunk of the car with enthusiasm. Haewon laughed at his behavior and left the car to help him. The two made their way to the beach and enjoyed one another's company. They walked by a small patch of sunflowers. Changbin turned to Haewon, tucked her hair behind her ear, and softly called to her, My sunflower. How cute. How cute. Chan, could you help me with this? Changbin turned towards Chan and asked. Chan rolled his chair towards Changbin. He looked over what Changbin was working on before Jisung's whining caught their attention. Why won't you ever ask me for help? he asked as he rolled his chair to the other side of Changbin. Do I really want to ask the opinion of someone who reads cheesy works of romance? Changbin deadpanned. I'll have you know, When It Rains is a masterpiece. A masterpiece! Jisung protested. Changbin shook his head at Jisung and turned back to his computer and Chen. Jisung muttered something under his breath as he was ignored. Chen helped Changbin work on a song. While the three were engrossed in their projects, a soft knock on the door snapped all of them out of their thoughts. Is this a bad time? Changbin stood up and gave the person a big hug. It's never a bad time for you, Haewon. He smiled. Haewon handed him a vase of red and pink roses paired with one big sunflower. Look at you, Changbin. You've never gotten gifts at work, Jisung commented with a mischievous tone. It is his birthday. Why wouldn't he get any gifts? Haewon asked while tilting her head. Yeah, Jisung, I'm allowed gifts for my birthday. Changbin handed Haewon back the flowers and walked over to Jisung and put him in a headlock. Haewon laughed as she walked to set the flowers on Changbin's desk. She continued to watch Changbin play fight with Jisung as Chan nudged her. Jisung was right. He's never gotten any gifts at work like this before. I'm sure he appreciates them from you, Chan told Haewon. I'm just giving him what he deserves, Haewon simply replied. He deserves the world, and I wouldn't give him anything less. Chan looked at Haewon with a surprised expression. Maybe you should write music instead. That sounded beautiful. He chuckled. Where do you think I've gotten my inspiration from? Changbin looked over at Chan and laughed. He released Jisung from his chokehold and walked back to his desk. He grabbed Haewon's hands and gave her a quick kiss. Happy birthday, Changbin. Haewon smiled as she ruffled his hair softly. I'll see you at the ice cream shop after work. Thank you. I'll see you then, Changbin smiled as he kissed her once more before she left. Haewon poked her head back in quickly and said, By the way, Jisung, When It Rains is a masterpiece. Jisung laughed out loud at the statement and Haewon laughed. Chan and Changbin shook their heads collectively as Jisung kept laughing with pride. The laughter died down and Changbin turned his attention to Chan and Jisung. Anyway, Chan opened up with a smirk, what's at the ice cream shop? Jisung spoiled a surprise last week, but don't tell Haewon I know about the surprise party, Changbin replied while glaring at Jisung. Not my fault my phone speaker is loud, Jisung protested with a pout. Changbin laughed as he looked at his project. It was a song, specifically for Haewon. Everything in his life changed when she walked into his life. He wanted this song to be perfect for her. As Chan helped put the finishing touches on the song, he saved the file and named the song. Something befitting of Jun Haewon and how Changbin feels about her. Sunflower Kisses. And that's the end. That's the end. It was a nice little love story. Yay. I really love how this one turned out. It's a personal favorite, I think, of mine. I love this one a lot. So, yeah. It's complete. So that was from the 350 follower goal. Super excited. It's finished. Thank you, thank you. It was very nice. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And one person 100% caught the undertone of it, and I'm honestly really glad they were here for that. So thank you. For the next follower goal, the fanfiction, I just got started writing it. And it is a return to old friends. It's a return to a previous work in a way. And it's Stray Kids. So we'll be looking forward to that. So, with that, that'll be it for today. I do really like reading fanfiction for everyone. I really do like that. I like it. I like it a lot. So, like you're narrating a lot. I had this audio only while I did stuff. Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, that's kind of what these fanfiction readings are for, you know? Despite me being all stuffed up and still sickness lingering in my body, but it's all good. It's all good. That's kind of, yeah, that is what these fanfiction readings are for, you know. It's like an audiobook. It's exactly like an audiobook, except I'm reading my own works, which, you know, again, it's fine. So that'll be it for today. Schedule for the week. Tomorrow, we are going to return to Mario Party 3 story mode. Hopefully finish it because my luck ran out. My luck ran out, and I'm on the second attempt of Waluigi's Island. And if we beat DK's story, we'll go to Wario's story. Yes, I added a fish boxers for follower emotes. I had to for fanfiction, so I'll probably keep it because fish boxes are a mainstay. And there was a reference. I think in any work I write, fish boxers are, you know, the mainstay. They're the Easter egg, if you will. So, yeah, tomorrow's Mario Party 3 story mode. Friday, we return to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Loop back around to Monday for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Tuesdays and Thursdays are Mario Party. Wednesdays and Fridays are Final Fantasy VII. And Mondays are Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Let me grab a drink. Let's go find somebody to raid. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm curious. I am so curious to see. I don't think, because last time we read fanfiction, I just tried to find someone with the Stray Kids tag. It's probably not gonna work this time. Let's just raid someone. Dup. Again, I forget volume sometimes. Let's go raid Master Max 165. Perfect raid. Thank you. You're very welcome. You have a good Valentine's Day too. I mean, we read a love story, which I'll let you know. I pulled parts from my own love story in this one, in Sunflower Kisses. So there you go. Probably why it's one of my favorites. Scary, sorry. But yeah, I hope everyone has a really great Valentine's Day. Whether you spend it with someone or, you know, by yourself or whatever, you know. Everyone take care for today. So we're going to go raid Master Max 165. So thank you everyone for coming out and hanging out and listening to the story. And we'll see you next time.